Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Southampton Board of Selectmen's meeting for April 18th. We are now going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, I want to say thank you to our police and fire department. We seem to manage to have a brush fire on Easter Sunday at our farm. The police department were very cooperative in the sense of actually walking horses away from the area where the fire was. Our fire department did an excellent job. Obviously, I was there, so I got to see what was going on. I guess I'm just going to summarize and say we have some very good people in this town. Job well done. What an Easter Sunday that was. Okay, I'm going to adjust the agenda a little bit. I would like to move the Town Administrator Screening Committee up front so that they can give us their report.
Good evening. Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Chair of the Town Administrator Search Committee. So we have met once last week and once the week prior to work on some of the charges that we were given. One of the charges being electing officers. So the officers are myself as chair, Vicki Morrow as vice chair, and Bill Erickson as clerk. The other charge item we've worked on is the review of past reports. So we received a folder about this thick with information. There was a lot of information in there. A lot of it is not necessarily relevant today, but we did pull out some general guidelines, some old position scoring, some just some good information, some old interview questions that we've used in the past. So we've culled through that, and out of this much, we've grabbed about that much stuff. So. We have gone through the past reports. We have reviewed the job description. We would like to wait until after the award of the consultant to, I guess, finalize the job description with some interaction with the PQB, just to make sure we get everything down and we understand the whole responsibility that we were looking for in the town administrator. So we would just like to lean on them once they come on board. In regards to the consultant search, the two consultants that gave us proposals, we reviewed both, I would say, very extensively. We looked at prior experience, the way they actually search for candidates, whether it be a recruiting approach versus a attracting approach, which we found very important here. You can either recruit someone and call, or you can propose the town and propose the structure as is this attractive to you, and try to draw them in. So we found that very important during the process. We looked at experience with Southampton and experience with similar sized towns. We looked at experience as a whole, so how many successful, we'll use executive placements they've done. So executives in our eyes were town administrator, a DPW director, a public safety director, a major department head. So how many successful placements they've had and years of experience. We compared that from one to the other. We basically did a list of pros and cons for both. We also looked at proximity to Southampton, because part of this will include, some travel expenses and things. So we wanted to make sure we were sensitive to that. While it is not the driver of the decision, it is something we wanted to look at and make sure. After our first meeting, we developed a list of about 4 or 5 questions, 4 for one, 5 for the other, basically to level the two candidates with some questions we had. They were already level on price, which is a good thing. You don't necessarily have to worry about who carried what. If they're both at the same price, then that's a large activity completed. So we posed the questions. They responded. We met last week to review everything in full, to review the answers from the questions, to have more deliberation. We reviewed very, I would say, organically and dynamically. When we reviewed this, we allowed discussion to happen in the room, and we discussed the positives and negatives from, let's say, the governmental side versus the resident side. You know, how do you really dissect what we're looking for in the consultant? So I would say that our group did a very good job doing so. I have forwarded the questions and answers along to the select board and the interim town administrator. And as I did say in the email, it was a formal communication, but we are also here to tell you that we had chosen the Edwards Collins Center of UMass Boston as the consultant. We felt they had the experience, the number of successful placements, along with years of doing this. They seem to have a larger network, and for us, they were into, from the proposals, they were into attracting the administrator here versus recruiting, which is important. You want someone to come here because they want to be here. You know, you don't want to entice someone with, let's say, money to bring them in, and they may not like the area. Their proposal was very entice them into the area, and then you get into the other things. So that was a very good thing we found in their proposal. You know, both were good proposals. We've, you know, the other consultant paradigm we have used in the past for other things, qualified. We leaned more towards the Collins group due to experience and some of those other items listed. Is there any questions for us?
So the recommendation is the Collins Institute?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And do you have sufficient funding for them?
So the total cost for them is $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
We have allocated the $5,000. That was allocated at town meeting, so we are short the $5,000.
So we are short 5,000. So does the Board of Selectmen wish to approach the Finance Committee and request a transfer of $5,000 so that the screening committee can move forward if we vote to hire?
I have some questions for you.
Sure.
First. So you talked about they have more experience in placing and tracking. Can you just go over their experience a little bit more?
So in terms of numbers, I don't have all their information in front of me, but for instance, the Collins group, I think placed over, I think it was between 20 and 30 executive level positions across the state, versus Paradigm to date had, I think, it was less than 5 successful placements. And it's not necessarily because of their ability, it's because of their time in the business, right? So they've been working on the placements for 3 years, and Collins was 9 going on 10 years. So the experience obviously leads to more successful placements.
Right, and you talked about tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? Like, what is that?
Tracking.
Or tracing? I don't know. You said something.
No, attraction to the area opposed to
Right.
recruiting.
Correct. So you can, I don't know if anyone here has experience, and I'm not saying these consultants do either, but there are industries out there where they hire headhunters. They try to recruit someone. They call you up, they get your number through someone, and they call you up and say, hey, would you like to come work for our company? We'll give you 10% more than what you make plus this. So that to me that's a recruitment tactic. You're trying to draw the person in with a benefit into a situation that they may not be fully aware of the situation, versus the attractor, you know, educates you about the community, educates you about the government, and then you move on to some of those benefit things. So, like I said, the proposal from Collins seems very centered around attracting the employee, showing the benefits of the town, because realistically, you would like a town administrator to come here and not leave. You know, you'd like them to stay, and they may not stay for 30 years, but if they stay for 10, that's great. So you want to have them come to an environment that they're comfortable with, that they may relocate to. So attracting them to the area, to the region, right? This part of the state is important.
Did that answer your question, Jack?
I know. I'm just trying to the extra $5,000, I just want to make sure it's worth it, you know, and
But that's for either consultant, Jackie. They're both at 10,000.
Right.
so,
So we haven't spoken to consultants about funding, about trimming down their estimate, but they have tight timelines. We're looking at 12 weeks versus 16 weeks. There's a lot of work in there. I can't imagine that if we asked for an adjustment, we'd be getting the same level of service we would at the current proposal price.
And I work with a lot of executive search firms for the state, and they normally charge 30 to 33% of the first annual salary, plus any bonuses that are included, plus
Right.
7 to 9% administrative charges. So both of these firms are charging a very low amount.
Right. And I think this is what they do also. I think the Collins Group in particular does this. I mean, they work with towns that, a broad spectrum of towns, you know, not necessarily the most affluent, not necessarily the most deprived in any way. They work with a lot of different towns, and I have a feeling they work with them because it helps with what they do. When you network with smaller towns like ours, you know, it helps with their project. So I think we are, I mean, it's the same price for both, but I think it is well worth the money for that.
Which rolls us back to the fact that we are short $5,000.
How much is in reserve for finance? A different hat for you, but
I think there's 10.
No, it's less than 10. We just signed a transfer for 3,000. Yeah, so it's around 6,500.
65.
and we're in April, so you got a month and a half to go.
Mhm. We haven't had a lot of requests. I guess first I'll say that I will, when it comes to making decisions or voting, I will recuse myself from voting as a finance committee member. I'm not going to participate in any deliberation regarding that. But as a finance committee member, we haven't had a lot of requests this year for funding. So I think we funded the police cruiser transmission maintenance, which was 35. Yeah. So that's the only major thing we've had come before us, so.
And I'm looking at, we're at the end of April. To keep this project going, we gotta get $5,000 on the table soon.
So thought is that we're coming into the end of year budget transfers at April 30th. You know, you can do them from April 30th into July 15th by statute. And so there will be some money left, I'd have to calculate exactly how much, in the town administrator salary line item that you, as long as the select board and the finance committee is okay, we could transfer that to the consultant line item, because it's kind of in the same category, you know what I'm saying? So you could potentially do that at the end, you know, in the next week or two.
Or take it from reserve, and if something's needed down the road, do
We
that transfer then?
potentially, yep, but that's just another thought I had, because it is relative. You know, those two line items are relative to each other. So, just a thought.
My personal thought is, let's keep this rolling.
Yeah,
And so I'd rather request it from finance. If finance isn't meeting this week, if I remember right.
Right now.
Right now? So you guys could vote right now?
No, not at the moment. As I said, I don't want to weigh in on the merits
know,
of
and
coming
I'm not
from
trying
that
to-
account due
I'm
to
not
the,
trying to put you in that spot, Mike. I'm just looking at the fact of, we all know we want to get this process moving. We're all on that same page. We all see that we're short $5,000. The immediate kitty that can be robbed is that.
Or utilized properly is what he's trying to say.
yeah,
but,
yeah.
I think I
You didn't
do.
say that word.
So if this is, I want to explain, this is just a motion to request the money from the reserve fund.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? I'm looking at it that we vote on this, we move this forward. Finance is not prepared to do this tonight, so it's still gonna be another week.
Mhm.
But if finance, working with the town accountant, sees this as the better option, then at least they're free to do something.
I agree.
As we're gonna start running into town meeting and trying to get the warrants all done and everything else, so. I guess I'll call a vote unless there's any more discussion. What, what do you want me to do with the microphone?
It's not on.
Yeah, it is.
It's
The-
on.
The green light's on, yeah.
I couldn't see green over here. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm your right-hand man.
A week away was so nice. Can they hear me now? In a minute, yeah, I'm sure. Okay. There's a motion on the floor and seconded to take and request a transfer of $5,000 for the TA search committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Next question, does this board wish to vote to hire the Collins Center based on funding?
This is where I'm going to recluse myself because Collins Center is part of UMass and I work for UMass, so,
Well, we're dwindling in numbers here.
well, I don't want it to come up later on.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. We move forward with Collins,
Provided the funding's available.
provided the funding is secure.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. 3 in favor, 1 abstention. Mike, your committee, when it meets with the select board, doesn't need to take and have a full quorum.
Mhm.
Just have one of your officers meet with us in the future.
Mhm.
And you guys are doing a great job and looking
Okay.
forward to make this one work.
Yeah, so if you, when you follow the timeline of the search committees and the proposal, so this is kind of like where we get to the top of the hill and then we kind of hang out for a little bit in terms of the search committee. We can do work on the job description, we can look at some items, but the bulk of the work really won't start up again until the consultant comes on board. So we'll probably have a meeting, I would say, within the next few weeks, and then we'll have a communication with the Collins Group about when they're on board, coming in and meeting with us. And, you know, they'll be coordinating with the town, meeting with the select board, probably meeting with the interim town administrator. They have some outreach to do in town to kind of get to know the departments a little more, so.
Just to be candid, because town meeting is May 16th, I suspect that between your committee and this committee, we're going to be busy with other things.
Mhm.
So it'll be after the 16th that we start moving on this.
Yep.
But that's good. We'll get this moving, we'll go.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to take a quick split here. Anybody wants a copy of the new warrant articles for town meeting? There's a few copies up here. You can't have one.
I am going to give them to the department heads tomorrow.
So now the department heads got them.
Now they have them.
There's more if you want them.
They can hear me now? I'm relieved. You see what I mean about, I can't win this. Okay. Next issue is appointments, Council on Aging Board. Do we have any information?
We have 3 candidates.
We have 3 candidates. Who are the candidates?
Janet Kane,
Mm-hmm.
the other lady is here, Lori.
Lori, have a last name?
Yep. Luzelle, Lori Luzelle of Hillside Meadow Drive. and Marjorie Starshus of Bloomer Road.
Okay. We have 2 seats available.
There are 2 seats available currently.
Have we received any recommendation from the Council on Aging Board?
I do not have any. I did speak to Shannon and to a member of the board, and they did say that they were not going to be able to have a meeting of the board prior to this meeting of the Select Board to make recommendations.
If memory serves, we've given them about 6 weeks to work on this. Am I in error?
I think we announced quite some time ago that this was the date for the appointments.
Agree.
What's the board's pleasure?
Well, just so we don't make the same mistake twice, at least 2 of the people that are applied are here, so I'd like to hear from them individually as to why they feel they would be a good person to be on the board.
Is that okay with you, Jay?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I have no problem with that.
Well, I guess I could flip a coin, but
Well, L comes before M, so maybe Lori first. That way there's no worry about that.
Why would I want to be on the Council on Aging Board? Well, I have been in town about 22 years, so obviously I'm a newbie. And during all that time, I have always been involved with the Senior Center. I served as chairperson of Triad for 14 years, was a member of Triad for 20, 14 as chairperson. I've been involved in volunteer work my whole life. American Cancer, Kev's Foundation, adult literacy. I have a degree from Lesley College in business. And I feel I'm qualified, and I have the interests of the seniors. Any questions?
Not for me. I read what you filled out, so I was,
But this helps the people at home see also, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yours?
What is the other one?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I have been volunteering my whole life since I was a candy striper. And then I went on to work for the Boys Club, well, volunteer. And what else did I do? I can't remember.
I read your resume. It's
Oh, you
very,
did?
it's very extensive, your
Okay.
background.
Good. Did everybody see it?
They
Yep.
all
all
Okay,
saw it.
good. Well,
This is more so that the people on television can sort of
oh,
see
okay.
who this is and what this is about. Your background is very impressive.
Okay, I just don't like what's going on at the senior center. And you're looking for money. At the last meeting, they had $8,000 they had to spend because we didn't have a director for,
Try to focus on why you want to
Oh,
be on the committee.
well, I
Not
would give
about
that,
the
but that's a
failings
general
of-
fund. I mean, I love all the seniors in Southampton, and I've lived here since 1979. I've just recently, the last maybe 3 years, been part of the senior center. And I go to all the activities. I've been to the yoga, I've been to the aerobics, the bingo, the cards, the painting, whatever the dinners, I volunteer with all that. And I think it's a great group of ladies, and I love them all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Board, it's come to the juncture now that, are we going to move forward with this?
Personally, I think we gave a lot of notice to the COA board. We promised these folks out here that we're going to have action on this date, and I think we need to do that.
Then I would suggest that we make a motion to appoint one individual at a time.
Can I just ask one question? Bob, do you know when the next meeting in Council on Aging Board is to give us the recommendation?
I was told that it wasn't possible to put one together because of some vacations, but I understand that there's a meeting tomorrow?
It's not on the agenda.
No.
Not on the agenda,
Yeah.
Posted.
but there is a meeting scheduled.
Is it a private meeting? Because it's not posted.
I haven't been informed of a meeting, I just heard
Heard.
that, yeah.
Well, I'm going to break here for a second because the third person that has applied for this position has just wandered into the room. And
Your timing?
she will be demanding equal time from me.
So your timing's either very good or very bad, depends how you look at it.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I'm feeling a bit under the weather, and we had a finance committee meeting, so I wasn't sure if I could come down or not, but I certainly sent a letter to the Council on Aging. I'm a senior. I love outdoor activities. I love the opportunities that we have in Southampton, and trying to really take 20% of our population and best utilize and find out what their needs are going to be and are today and in the future. And hopefully work to develop a center that really meets their needs versus is attached to maybe the back of Town Hall. Put together something that is going to be a model for small towns in Southampton to say how we are best support the seniors in our town. I wasn't really prepared to say anything today because, I was in the Finance Committee meeting, and I know there's been a lot of opportunity to improve communications with the seniors in town. I would hope to take a lead on that and work with the COA to improve that. I always see a great listing of activities for the Council on Aging. There's always been a strong Friends organization for the Council on Aging. And, with those two strong parts, I think we can have a great whole for the seniors in our community. I read in Europe how they have outdoor playgrounds for seniors. We put a lot of money into preschools and elementary, so let's use Connick Park for something more than so that the whole family can come and participate and look into avenues from that perspective. So those are some of the things that excite me about working with the Council on Aging members and bringing some new ideas into the community. So thank you for my couple of minutes of opportunity. My timing is, like you said, either really good or really bad, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Person that thought the timing was perfect. Does the board wish to proceed?
So back to what we were talking about, do they have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night with this on the agenda? Do you know, are you able to look that up? I'm just curious.
Can someone walk out and look at the board and see if it's posted?
Yeah, I'm just curious. If it's not there, then we might as well make a decision and be done with it. If it is there, I would be willing to.
I can check on,
It's not on the online version.
No.
on the MassGov. I don't see any.
Well, if it's not posted on Mass Live, on the Mass Gov, then it's not a legal meeting.
I'm just trying to look up something here, if you give me half a second.
No. Nothing posted on MassGov and obviously no agenda.
Just checking something out here.
What I'm trying to look up is, I think I have an email somewhere that said they're having a meeting tomorrow, but they're just going to start the process, and I forgot who was assigned to it, is going to look into the process for filling the board. So I didn't get the impression at all it was going to be done tomorrow. So I'm ready to go ahead.
All right, go ahead. Mr. LeBrie?
Well, if they were in fact going to have a meeting tomorrow night and they were prepared to forward something to us for our next meeting, which is next Tuesday, I would have waited. But if they're not prepared to do that, I don't want this to linger on for another month or so. I mean, this has to be, I think we have to move on from this.
Well, Shannon just texted me and said maybe next week, but they have no meeting tomorrow night.
I think we move forward.
I agree.
So I would suggest that we take one seat at a time.
Can I just preface this by saying there's 2 seats open and 3 people, so there's nothing personal, because one person's not going to make it on there. But when another seat comes open, you know, hopefully that person applies. I don't know what everybody's going to say, but that's just my feeling. I got 3 good people.
Yeah.
Do I hear a recommendation for someone?
I'll step out. I don't mind talking. I'll make a motion that we appoint Lori LaSalle, is that the proper term? To the COA Board of Directors.
Okay, I'm going to do this by basically just a roll call vote.
Do you need a second?
Second.
Yep. I'll second, if I can.
Sure.
Roll call vote on this one. Jackie?
Martin, aye.
Sears, aye.
Labrie, aye.
Jackie, aye. So there's 4. Want to do Janet?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on a roll.
They get shy all of a sudden. I'm going to make the motion that we appoint Janet Kane to the position, the second open position, based on her background Finance Committee information. I think she's going to bring a lot of financial value to the board.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Anything? Roll call vote then.
Labrie, aye.
Martin, aye.
Konecki, aye.
Sears, aye.
Well, it's a foregone conclusion that that's it. Those seats are full.
So I guess
Go get sworn in now?
if gets
Town
sworn in by
clerk.
the clerk, and she's here tonight, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So the motion is made and seconded that these 2 individuals are now part of the Council on Aging Board of
Yes.
Directors.
And thank you, Marjorie. We appreciate your
Yeah, thank you.
application. And thank
Now-
you 2 ladies for volunteering.
Before everybody gets up and leaves, there's another part to this I want to bring up. On our agenda, one of the issues that came up was the future needs of the senior center. I asked the town administrator to put it on our agenda tonight. What I'd like to ask the board, if the board would like to form a committee to start looking at long-term goals for a facility for the Council on Aging. We know, given 20% of our population and all the rest, that you're going to be outgrowing that. So I'd like to make that a motion to appoint a committee to begin the study
Okay, appointed committee,
through the Board of Selectmen as an ad hoc committee to review the
Yeah.
future needs of the senior center facility.
okay. I mean, I'm in favor of it. I'm not sure of the makeup of it or how we're going to go forward, but in general, I'm in favor of doing that so they can take their own future in their hands and decide what they want to do going forward.
Right, it makes
a lot of
sense.
sense.
Yes, it does.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. And do you want to, is it going to be making a 5-7?
Yeah, we need to talk about structure.
Yeah, we got to structure it a little bit too. But I think we should establish,
If we
The committee.
establish a committee, then as time permits, we'll put a scope of responsibilities to this.
Okay.
But at least get the committee out there so people can take and apply, and then we'll work on this after town meeting to take and give a scope of responsibilities.
So do we need to have the size of the committee as part of the motion?
No, at this point in time, we're just moving forward, get some people to volunteer for this, put it together, and then we'll have another vote when we set up the roles and responsibilities.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Sounds good.
Aye.
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 Okay, so be it. Does that make sense, Bob, the way this sort of bounced around?
Yeah, I'm sure we can move ahead with this.
Yeah. This is gonna be an ad hoc committee under the Board of Selectmen to basically look at the future needs for facilities for the seniors in town.
And I think we want to involve the COA Board of Directors in some
Oh, absolutely.
capacity, as well as
Yeah,
the members.
but,
Okay. Anybody want to comment on that thought? Because we have a lot of members here. You don't mind if I bring somebody up?
no, I don't
It
mind
might
if you
not
bring
make
somebody up.
anybody happy, but
That's okay, we're used to that.
I've been coming for about 2 years. My name's Dennis Leclerc from, okay. We had troubles, if not months, it's been closer to years, getting electric push-button doors for handicapped, disabled people. And I'm one of them that need the door, and I'm thankful, because it came around my time, I think. You guys did it for me, I'm sure. Little humor, but pat on your back if you did. I think this is a great idea, thinking for the future for us, seniors, to get a place bigger for us. We need it maybe, I don't know. I'm not speaking for that too much, but if you had so much troubles getting a door, how are you gonna get a bigger place, afford a place, come up with a bigger place? I just don't see it happening.
Positive thoughts here.
I know,
We
but I
started
saw
on-
how much trouble a door came into.
It took a year to put the handrail up. It took a year to put the doors in. We're on a yearly cycle here, and that's the small stuff. But it's moving forward now.
Well, it's a good thought, I'll give you that. I mean,
That
I'm
thought, by the
just,
way, came from Art Lawrence. When Art Lawrence got up at the podium and basically gave a punch list of concerns, most of his concerns really focused on a better facility.
oh yeah, it's needed, I would think. It's just, whatever, I just voiced
No, and I think
whatever.
we're moving forward.
Okay,
Okay,
I think
thank you.
there's grants out there too that we can look into once the committee gets
Oh, you
going.
can get grants and stuff
They're
like
out
that?
there, we just got to see if we can get them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak on this topic?
Okay. We want the position of COA director to be posted immediately. They still have not
Whoa,
posted.
that is open time for the public. I don't mind
Oh.
giving you a minute relative to a new facility for the seniors, but that
Oh.
wasn't on,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, let me know when I can.
yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I guess that topic is closed. We have no hearings. Selectmen's reports?
Nothing right now.
Nothing new. Our next meeting for the driveway committee is a week from Thursday. I think it's the 27th, is it? At 7 o'clock in this room.
Is that committee going to have penalties and appeal processes in the bylaw?
We're going to have a recommendation for the driveway bylaw to come forward to this board, and then the Board of Selectmen will either modify it, vote it in, or change, or whatever. So it'll be their recommendation to this board. That's all it's going to be.
I think I gave an update in the Public Safety Committee last time.
Yeah, there was,
Okay, so there's,
okay. Okay, town administrators report.
It's relatively brief, Mr. Chairman. Most of my time, particularly over the past week, has been spent putting together the warrant that you have in front of you. Also been involved with some budget meetings. You also have a sample technology plan in your packet. I did meet with Kim Florick, who is the technology official at the Hampshire Regional School, and she has suggested that she will come and provide a plan for the town, taking a look at what we currently have, and then trying to project out our needs over the next 5 years. And I think before we just go headlong and start buying more equipment or changing out software, having a plan by someone who is very highly trained in this field makes some sense. So I said to her, as soon as you can get started. Also, her agency has applied for and received a grant to establish online permitting in the towns that they serve. And so we haven't discussed this, but I said the town would be interested in pursuing that. In other words, all the town offices that have some role in permitting, from Historic Commission, Conservation Commission, obviously Building Commissioner and so forth, ZBA, Planning Board, all would have access to a file for each property online, which would tell them how much permitting has been done, which boards have signed off, which boards need to sign off. And it's something that's being done various parts of the state, works pretty well. And so she'll have more for us on that in the near future. In the meantime, a technology plan. Also had the last meeting on shared conservation agent over in Easthampton. I think that project is ready to get off the ground. Everything seems to be signed and sealed at this point. And lastly, I didn't put it on here, but sometime the last week in hiring a part-time custodian for this building. Charlie's been involved with that. We have a person now on board, and actually, I can see the difference already. She's going to be working at Town Hall, the library, and the police department to maintain the buildings better. We have had discussion of the need for some equipment and the need to switch from household cleaning products to commercial. I did meet with the individual that does supplies for the regional school system, and I said to them that if at the end of this fiscal year, when we get into the budget transfer process, if we have any money available, then we can, at the end of the year, that maybe we can be more supportive in terms of what she needs to do a good job here.
Nice.
Very good.
Good.
And that's basically it. Talked with the chair. We're scheduling tentatively a meeting for the 25th to finish up a decision on the warrant, maybe execute the warrant if necessary. Also, regular meetings, there'll be 3 in May, May 2nd, May 16th, and May 30th. Department head meetings tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Annual town election, May 1. Annual town meeting, May 16th.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, Mike, this is your paperwork. It really is your paperwork.
And the accountant is right next door.
The accountant's right next to you. I'm sorry it took me so long. Okay, that said, we did the search committee. There's no master plan implementation.
That was distributed about a month ago.
Yeah.
So you have a copy of it.
Okay. So now we're moving into.
The chair has resigned, incidentally. Hank Martin has
Yeah.
decided not to continue.
He's been there how many years?
Long time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot how many years he said. I'm on the committee, so, yeah. Well, he's going to be missed.
Yeah, did a good job. Great job.
So now we're moving into the bylaw committee, draft of Article 1. Do we have someone here for the bylaw committee?
Hello, Velda Goldberg, 26 Caitlin Way. So we're meeting with you tonight to go over our changes to Article 1. Perhaps I should just reiterate what we had, when we had met the last time, we agreed, or you agreed to the procedure that we were suggesting that we bring articles to you piecemeal with our suggested changes. You approve tentatively this as a draft so we can put it up on the webpage for people to comment on. We'll collect all of their comments, and then at the end, after we've gone through all of the articles, we present it back to you with all of the comments and so on for final approval. So this is just looking at Article 1 tonight to kind of get us going. This is an easy, should be a relatively easy article because there aren't any real substantive changes that we're suggesting. And we also, the last time, asked if we could submit some questions to town council to help us know exactly how to proceed with this. So thank you for submitting our questions. We did get the responses back, and Bob shared those responses with you. They were very helpful to us. Perhaps the thing that I should mention that would affect all of us the most is that the attorneys did say that it would have to go to town meeting twice. The first time with our changes redlined as you see here, and then remember we all, anyone who's looked at the bylaws thinks that not only should they be revised, but they need to be reorganized so they make a little more sense, so common topics are grouped in the same section and so on. So the attorney said we could present the changes first in the red line version that you had, and then afterwards it would have to go to town meeting just to be reorganized. But that should be a relatively smooth procedure because it wouldn't be any big changes than just reorganization.
And that can be special town meetings.
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the first town meeting, there could be changes or from the floor, or at least suggestions,
Right.
but the second town meeting is just a reading of them and a vote on it. Am I remembering that correctly?
It's just having them approve, not substantive changes, but
Right.
approve the reorganization.
So by that time, everybody should
Right.
have read them, and, okay,
Right.
thanks.
Right. And once you tentatively approve a draft, we'll put the draft up on our webpage and collect comments, and people can find the committee's webpage by going to the town webpage, going to the committee list, the drop-down menu of the committee list, clicking on bylaws, and then on the bylaws page, there's a link. And there's an easy way for them to submit comments. They just click and write in their comment, and we get it. And we'll put all comments up, good, bad, or indifferent, or whatever. So that's it. So if people have any questions, they can easily find us. Okay. So how would you like to? I have extra copy if anyone needs an extra copy.
Well, at this point in time, I need time to review this. I haven't really gotten to it. But it's not going to make it for this town meeting.
Oh, no.
So, no.
The look on your face when he said that,
It's not going to make it there.
Not unless we're going to be 24 hours for the next, 3 weeks. No, I don't think so.
But you got the answers from town council that set the direction and tone for everything. So, I mean, I like the fact that you're simplifying things, making it a lot easier to read.
Yeah.
Because when you look at this now, it's, it's like redundantly 4 times saying the same thing, but in 3 different directions. So I think you're doing a great job with this.
can we put this on next week's agenda to approve, disapprove, whatever? Give us a week to
Yeah,
look at it. I think that'd be fine.
yeah. We just didn't get to it.
Okay.
but we don't want to keep it going too long, because obviously you folks are working hard on this, and
Well, we're, for your next meeting, if we meet in the meantime, then we'd like to send you a couple other articles to look at, because we've gone through quite a bit of it, so we'd like to, get these moving. So how will it work for you if we have them to you, like this time, I think you had this one for a week. So if we get these to you for a week ahead of time, how much time do you
A week
need ahead
time
of the meeting?
helps. A week ahead of
Okay.
time helps. The problem is because of town meeting, there's so many irons in the fire that we're having a hard time keeping track of
Right,
a lot of stuff. I'm being very candid about that. Bob, can you put this on the agenda for next Tuesday?
Already made a note.
Next Tuesday's Selectmen's meeting, the hope is to have that to finalize the budget for the town meeting and all the rest of the loose ends that connect with that. But we can put this on there with that.
Okay.
should we,
All right.
excuse me, should we have this on each agenda going forward, so there's always there, depending on what they
Yes.
have?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's
Right.
a lot easier to pass up than it is, excuse me, to put it on.
Right. How many articles are there total, roughly?
Oh, gosh, it's, 20, 30.
Okay.
There are a lot of details.
Excuse me.
This
I mean,
is-
some of them are much more complicated
This is
than
an easy
others.
one.
Most towns, the sections, you want to guess which section is the longest?
I have no idea.
The dog.
Dogs,
Dogs?
yeah. So we'll give you about 3 weeks to look at them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
We already did the search committee,
We did the search committee.
selected a firm.
We did a technology online.
I just mentioned that, that's the plan I
So
just,
that's the
mentioned.
same.
Yep.
I'm trying to make sure we don't skip something. Before we get into the approval of the warrant for town election, that's the election, that's not the,
That'll be the easy one.
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Do you have the warrant for the town election? Or does Janine have it?
I do not,
Well, I know she has it.
Jim, we want to run over there and just get it?
I'll go get it.
She was at me to make sure it's on the agenda, but he's in real trouble. We have quite a stack of PCFs to do, but I'll do that after the,
Yeah, PRFs and PCFs, yeah.
yes, George.
She said she gave it to you.
Well, it's good seeing you, my friend.
She gave you the warrant.
Yes, it
But
is.
she's printing another one.
Oh, man.
I don't have a copy in the file here.
Okay, she's gonna print another one for you in here in a minute.
All right, so the town clerk's going to print that. So in the meantime, let's talk about the dedication of the annual town report. Typically, the town of Southampton dedicates the town report to an individual that's done all kinds of tasks in town, that's been a model citizen, and we'd just like to say thank you with this.
Where's that list?
Do we have a recommendation for this year?
Where's the, we had a list written, jotted down, didn't?
The list is the years before.
Right.
Oh,
I'm recommending Virginia Ahart for this year.
it's just a recommendation.
No, they still got to vote.
Surprise, Virginia.
Do I hear a motion?
No moved.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second it, well, third.
I don't know if you reading through that. Write that down. Is there a
Are we
third?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Virginia, we do recognize the work you've done in town for
Yeah.
all these years, and we do say thank you.
Thank you for, I've enjoyed doing all of it.
You just enjoyed picking on me. I know.
That deserves a reward right there.
Right there. Okay. Still holding on the town clerk. Want to move into PCFs?
Sure.
Might as well.
All right, one of you guys want to read those?
Do we have them?
Here we are. I saw them in here.
I have
Stack of
all
them.
of them here.
If you give them to me, I'll read them.
I will.
And the new business. Personal, I got it right here if you're looking. Here's the,
Charlie.
Oh, Mike added some?
well, I have this, all the individuals. Oh, there you go. You got it right
Mike
there.
just added
Good.
stuff. I like how Mike and I have a rapport with paper.
Okay, so do we want to read these all off or vote on them all together or do it one at a time?
Sure.
Read them all off and vote on them together.
Okay. Is everybody ready for
Quiet,
these?
please. Quiet, please.
Here, Charlie, you want a hammer?
Oh, whistle worked pretty good. You noticed that?
This is
Oh,
all-
look, here comes the town
Excuse me.
clerk.
Oh,
Just when I was going to have my
here
moment.
he,
comes.
here
Here she
he,
comes.
now entering the town clerk. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Here we go. Warrant for annual town election, May 1st, 2017, Town of Southampton, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, Hampshire. To Constable, Town of Southampton, to said county. Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Southampton qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to elect by AccuVote ballot on Monday, the first day of May 2017, at the Town Hall, 210 College Highway, in said Southampton, for the following town officers. Town Moderator, 1 for 1 year. Selectman, 2 for 3 years. Treasurer Collector, 1 for 3 years. Almoner, 1 for 4 years. Assessor, 1 for 3 years. Board of Health, 1 for 3 years. Cemetery Commissioner, 1 for 3 years. Community Preservation, 2 for 3 years. Finance Committee, 2 for 3 years. Housing Authority, 1 for 5 years. Library Trustee, 4 for 3 years. Park Commissioner, 1 for 5 years. Personnel Policy and Procedures Board, 1 for 3 years. Planning Board, 1 for 5 years. School Committee, Hampshire Regional High School, 2 for 3 years. School Committee, William E. Norris School, 2 for 3 years. Tree Warden, 1 for 1 year. Water Commissioner, 1 for 3 years. There is also a question on the ballot. Question 1, shall the town of Southampton vote to accept the provisions of 6C of Chapter 40 of the General Laws, which authorizes cities and towns to appropriate money for the removal of snow and ice from private ways therein open to public use? The question's a yes or no question. The poll will be open at noon, 12 p.m., and remain open until 8 p.m. And you are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting up attested copies thereof at the town hall in said Southampton, and notices of the same usual places in said town, 7 days at least before the time of holding said town election. Hereof fail not, and make due return of the warrant with your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of elections afforded said. Given under our hands this 18th day of April 2017, Select Board of Southampton. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Before voting, can you list the Finance Committee, the numbers and terms again?
Finance Committee, 2 for 3 years.
So we only have one three-year term member, and that's me. So the other two, I think, are, I don't know if they're 2 or 1 year terms, but I don't think they're 3-year terms. So we may want to confirm that. I'm looking at the bylaws now.
Someone
So-
needs to talk to the town clerk.
Robert's already working on it.
Because it's 2 members to serve for 1 year, 2 members to serve for 2 years, and 1 member to serve for 3 years. So I still have 1 more year of the third to go. So I don't know who has the 2 and the 1. I don't know those offhand, but.
You need to come to the microphone, Virginia, if you want to address this.
I think, Virginia AR, 27 Fulmer Road, having just worked on those, I think that is the setup when we went from, I don't know how many there were that were appointed, to the election. And that is still in the bylaw, which it shouldn't be.
So that was just the
Then they should have gone
staggering?
to 3-year terms following the first round.
Did we accept the bylaw that changes that?
No disrespect to you, Virginia, or you, Mike, but the town clerk's in the wings. She's responsible to oversee this. I'd much rather just have Janine come up here
Janine, but-
and answer the question.
I think that's where that came from.
Janine, please. There appears to be a concern about the Finance Committee. It states 2 for 3 years.
Right.
And it seems that there was only 1 3-year seat there, not 2, and the one that is presently in that 3-year seat is not, his term is not up.
I have 2 members of the Finance Committee with their term expiring this year. One was elected or started in 2014, and one started in 2016, or was re-elected then. Now let me go back. There was a vacancy, and that term was going to expire in 2017. So for one member, instead of running for a 3-year term, she chose to run for a 1-year term.
Was she appointed, or did she run?
No, back in 2016, there were 2 openings and a vacancy. Okay, so instead of running for the full 3-year term,
She ran for the vacancy, which was 1
she
year.
ran for the vacancy, which was for 1 year instead of 3.
Okay, so I guess my confusion is between the number of 3-year terms on the Finance Committee, because the bylaw says there's only 1 3-year term, which the bylaw posted on the Town of Southampton website.
Is the bylaw an elected position or an appointed
It's
position?
an elected position, and I'm serving that 3-year term now. Now, if the change is that there's 3 3-year terms, that's great for longevity of the committee. I just want to confirm that before.
May I suggest, because we have a lot on the agenda, that you, Janine, Virginia, go into the town clerk's office with this. We'll put this on hold for now and sort it out and just get back to us. And I'll stop whatever we're doing and finish this up when you guys come in,
Sounds good.
okay?
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we should probably rescind the
Want to keep
motions.
that?
so
Well, we
can go
didn't
on.
vote.
No, but we're in the
I'll
middle of some
rescind my
discussion.
motion.
Rescinding the motion?
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay, all in favor of rescinding your motions?
Aye.
Okay, it's must rescind. Janine, you don't want this copy? Okay. Thank you. First I have nothing, now I have something, but I'm not sure if I have what I really want.
Okay, we're gonna go over the PCFs as well as the PRF. So first one is for the health agent, Ronald Lauren, resignation as of 4/19/17, his last day, which is tomorrow. PCF for health agent, Christopher Bishop, temporary emergency, replace Ron Lauren. Just looking for a start date. Pay is $22.37, 10 hours a week for 12 weeks. Excuse me. Excuse me. Assistant COA Director, Nancy Ogilevitz. Is that right? It was scribbled. Ogilevitz. Resignation separation as of 3/30/17. Shannon Cutler, part-time, temporary. It's an extension of her position as interim COA director
What is the term on that?
until filled with permanent director or 12 weeks. I believe we did 12 weeks originally for her. So firefighter, probationary paramedic, Kyle Gagnon. Just graduated 2-year paramedic program, works as probationary medic until they are checked off as fully independent. So this is for Kyle. He's getting an increase of from 1683 to 1833. So training aide, EMS, Rich Bloomstrom. It's essential additional duty to ensure new EMTs receive complete medical training. Change in salary from $24.98 to $24.98 to $25.48. That's a 50-cent increase. Health agent Ron Lauren resignation. That's a little deja vu here.
I did that at the beginning.
Okay, so here's health agent, resignation. I think he just wanted us to know.
Ron Lauren again.
Yeah. Health agent Christopher Bishop, new hire. Again, it's a
You did that already?
duplicate.
Well, there's a temporary appointment. Is that still a temporary?
I'm not saying, emergency appointment.
So you got an emergency and then a temporary?
Chris, let me just pull it out. Now, this one says emergency and temporary. This one says just emergency. So we got it covered either way. I'm not sure why that's in there. Selectman Department Custodian. Shared custodian with Norris School, 20 hours. Start date 4/10, $15.38 an hour.
What's her name?
I'm looking here.
Is that Laurie?
It would have to be Lori.
Lori
but-
Baker, okay.
Yeah. It's coming out of the general fund. Yep, next one is a personal change form for Lori Baker,
Okay.
new hire. $15.38 an hour, 20 hours a week for 12 weeks. Probationary firefighter Courtney Burdo. Compensatory action to align with state's increase in minimum wage. So she's going from $10 an hour to $11 to meet minimum wage. This is the same thing for
There's a
Courtney
part-time here and
Bordeaux. Yeah.
an emergency.
This is a part-time. The other one was the emergency. Again,
Okay.
going from $10 up to $11 state minimum wage.
Yeah.
Assessor's office, assistant assessor, new position. The department needs a 2-person, highly qualified, experienced, ready to step in for the principal assessor if needed. Pay scale $19.51 per hour, 25 hours per week. It's all signed off.
Bob, the one in the assessors is retroactive to what
Correct.
date?
It would have been 2 weeks ago.
Our last meeting is what we
Yes.
agreed on.
It
April
says-
4th, it should have been before you on April 4th, but that meeting was canceled, if you recall.
Says requested start date of 3/20.
Yeah, I thought, we were missing a signature, and it was we canceled the April 4th meeting, and it went to the meeting before that,
Yeah, I was.
right?
It was brought up at the Finance Committee meeting. I was at that one about the principal assessor going back that 1 week
Let me just, I'll tell you what day.
for retroactive pay. It was only 1 week.
I think it was the 21st that is the meeting that we were going to vote on it of March.
Right.
And because it wasn't signed off properly, we were going to wait and then make it retroactive to that meeting. Which is
So that is the assessor PCF?
The assistant assessor.
So we signed and we turned that in. I know we signed.
Right,
Turned it in.
but the discussion we had was that was gonna be held retroactive because of the fact that there was a glitch in signatures not getting through, whatever you wanna call it. But,
Well, I wouldn't call it a glitch.
well,
I'd
But
call it
that was-
following procedure.
At the Finance Committee meeting that I was at, and Gary Swanson came.
Right.
And it was, I think, a week we were,
We signed it that day.
right,
I might have handed it over, yeah.
yeah.
so that's the day we go away.
That was the 21st of March, is that about right?
This says March 20th.
I'd have to look back at
Well,
my
that's the
notes.
Monday prior to the meeting that we had.
But that, is that not the signature to finance, March 20th?
Finance is 4/3.
That's what I would go with.
I'm just trying to bring up a calendar.
I mean, there was no discussion at our meeting about retroactive either. Not that necessarily plays a role in it, but it was not something that,
There was with us, and that
Right.
was,
and I mean, I would check finances based on a retroactive pay as well in the department. You know, if you entertain going back to some period to make sure that there's enough in there to cover it.
Yeah, I thought we were supposed to go to the 20th, is what we were talking about. But I'll agree to the 3rd, and then if somebody wants to give us documentation showing otherwise, we'll amend it.
okay?
So we'll go with the 3rd,
So
which
we're,
was Monday of last week, or 2 weeks ago.
this is all related.
Is that the end of them?
Yeah, this is all related. Yep, that's the end of them. Does anybody have any questions on any of these?
Need a motion?
Yeah, I have no questions on anything.
I'll make the motion we accept as read, and with the amendment on the assistant assessor going back to 4/3.
Did you get that, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
Larry, second?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously. I saw Janine run in, Robert, did she? Please?
Or Mike can probably, what's the answer? You must have worked it out?
Did you work it out?
Okay.
Yes, so we've been informed that, so we were in the 2-for-1, 2-for-2, 1-for-3 position. Now, all new members will be serving 3-year terms.
Is that documented somewhere? Is that,
I have not seen it, but I guess according to Janine, that change was similar to when the select board changed. I think it was 3 members to 5 members. It was around the same time that they implemented the change, so that's what I've been informed.
Okay. So it's correct. So you want to vote on the warrant since we're back?
Well, I want to do
Okay.
that when she's here.
Okay.
So you want to move into licenses and permits? We have a one-day wine and malt beverage permit for Conant Park for time, 24th.
24th of what, though?
Uh,
Is that April 24th, Bob?
Don't know. If you look at it, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you know what the date is on that one,
I
Bob?
I have it here.
It looks like a typo. Either that or,
It's a Monday.
well,
I saw the application.
I don't think it's April.
No, probably April, May, June.
June 24th.
June, there you go.
All right. All the paperwork, I take it's in order.
It is?
All right. Do I hear a motion to grant the permit?
I'll make a motion, we grant the permit to Susan Falsetti on the 24th of June this year.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Warrants that were signed. On March 30th this year, I signed W-17-39 for $195,100.75. On March 23rd, 17 this year, PD 17-38A for $161,635.16. And warrant signed April 13th this year, warrant W-17-41 for $63,334.16. Those are the only warrants that I've seen. I believe there's going to be some warrants for tomorrow.
Repeat that, please?
I believe there's going to be warrants tomorrow.
Yes, yes.
So we'll try to put those on for next week. Approval of minutes. We have minutes for March 21st, regular meeting. Has this board had time to read them?
I have.
Yep.
Do you want to move on these minutes?
It's up to Jackie if she wants
Up
to.
to Jackie. What's your pleasure, Jackie?
Well, I'd like to read them before we,
Then we will table this?
yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think they've been tabled, gentlemen.
Okay.
I guess our next discussion is going to be the annual town meeting, unless you see something I missed, gentlemen, Bob, Jackie?
No?
No,
All right.
Didn't have time for the public. Did you want to do that before or after?
I was going to, it didn't matter one way or the other, but I was really trying to get Janine's thing tidied up, and all right. We'll go into open time for the public. Open time for the public. The Select Board reserves a portion of its meeting for public comments and encourages participations as follows. Open time is to discuss time when town residents can bring matters before the Select Board that requires a minimum of discussion and are not on the agenda. Please try to keep your comments short and to the point. Plan on being allowed up to 5 minutes per person, not per topic, and to speak at any meeting under open time only. It is if it appears the topics being discussed will consume longer than 5 minutes allocated, then at the discretion of the chair, the matter will be placed on an upcoming Board of Selectmen's meeting agenda. If you believe that your topic will require more time or desire to make a more formal presentation than is allowed under these guidelines, please contact the town administrator to be asked to put on future agendas so that we can properly allocate enough time. You are free to ask questions or to make your point for all to be considered. However, engaging in active debate with Board of Selectmen or audience members will not be allowed. All comments and questions must be directed to the chair of the board. All remarks must be respectful, courteous, free of name-calling and personal attacks. Any appropriate language will not be tolerated. I am losing my voice. Yes, ma'am.
Tammy Wilderness, 298 College Highway. Thank you very much for addressing the fire that occurred, the brush fire that occurred on Easter. My question to the board is, when that came out to the public on Western Mass and on News 22, it all came out saying it was at 162 Brickyard, which was the wrong side of the street and nowhere near where this was happening. How do they get that address? Because there was a lot of people put into panic.
I can only take and refer back to what our town administrator said about Mark Twain. And if, Bob, if you would like to repeat that.
As Mark Twain said, if you do not read the newspapers, you're uninformed. If you do read the newspapers, you're misinformed.
What can I say?
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was something that was reported and then the police chief or the fire chief said it, or if highway department said it, or if you know, or is it just they're estimating, it
My
looks
sus-
like it's on that area?
My suspicion is I was at the end of the driveway at 162 Valley Road, because 162 Valley Road has our access road for us to get out to the backside of our farm. And that's where we were directing the fire trucks to get out there. It wasn't Brickyard, it was Valley.
Yep.
But that was so that we could get the fire trucks out into those open fields.
Yeah.
Because there is no other access there except by that house.
That makes complete sense.
And if
that
I
they
know the news
messed up.
media, they're sitting there listening to the scanner, grabbing snippets, and reporting on pieces. You would be amazed the amount of misinformation that floats around.
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you for addressing that.
Two quick items. Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. I think we did put the formal request in to have a joint meeting, and from what I understand, next Tuesday we'll be doing a budget review, joint budget review.
We're trying to see how our finance team is doing so that we can get this thing sort of gelled together. The thought tonight was to take all the articles and go over the articles, but it was very obvious the budget wasn't going to be ready. So the next check was to just simply go into the budget next week.
Okay.
I don't know how you feel about it, Mike. I mean, you know how this is very fluid. We're trying to...
I'm good with that. I mean, we have posted as a joint meeting. We had members here that had commitments for this evening to review the warrants, but I'm staying, and we're committed to come next Tuesday to have a joint meeting to review the budget. There's a lot of work to be done. It's not something that we can just hope to get done, frankly, in an hour or two. There's a lot of work in there to be done. It may even take another meeting, so just to be mindful of that. The second thing, and I think I was out of the room, did you approve PCFs for the custodian? PCFs and PRFs?
We did.
Do those have signatures from the PQB and the Finance Committee on there?
Didn't look.
No.
John, I don't think they were all done.
They don't.
Okay, so how do we get them if they don't have signatures?
Yeah, why did they end up there? I don't know, but I'll pull them out of here
Okay.
later in the day instead of burning up meeting time.
Yeah, that's fine. Just as we know about it, we know about the situation, just so we make sure we get all the signatures on those.
Yeah, no, point taken. I assumed that there were signatures.
Okay, we would like the position of COA director to be posted immediately.
That is posted by the board.
I know, and they've been since October 5th, 1916, and they still have not put it up.
Well, you now have 2 new members on that board.
And it's gonna be their responsibility. You got 5 people in there that couldn't do it.
Well, they will be part of that board, but you have now 2 new people to discuss this with.
Okay. We also think you should examine the COA board, because it should not take October, November, December, January, February, March, April to get a posting up. There's something, not doing something. They meet 1 hour a month, if that. They will not bend on any of that, and whatever meeting they supposedly are scheduled, it's not posted. It's gotta be an open meeting.
Well, it's very obvious they're not having a meeting.
Well, yeah, but you thought they were,
Well,
and they don't
rumors
post
and
it.
hearsay. But if you notice, we appointed 2 new members
Yes,
to that
I'm very happy with
committee
your appointment.
tonight.
I'm very happy with the appointment.
So now those 2 individuals need to sit down with that board and work on these things that you bring to light.
Okay.
But we, as the select board, don't have that authority to do the inner monitoring of what a board does in town. That's their role and responsibility.
Okay, well, according to the Ethics Commission, a select board member cannot be appointed to a paid position in town unless they resign from the select board for 30 days.
Okay, you're really
Well, that's what it says, and out of the
So the
6,000
Ethics
people.
Commission will follow up with
I'm
that.
speaking. Out of 6,000 people in Southampton, you couldn't have found somebody who wasn't on this board to fill in?
We did not find anyone.
It had nothing to do with us.
We
But
didn't
you
appoint
approved
her.
it.
No, we
No.
didn't appoint her.
No. That's the board of directors. Can I say something? My hope with the two new members is they're going to push a positive agenda. If they don't, you got to remember, we have the right to appoint to the board, but we have the right to remove from the board, too.
Well, I think you should look at the board and see who needs to be removed.
But
Who's making this take so long?
Please
think
let
these-
these
yeah,
two
two members.
individuals have some time.
Yes,
to
I
do
will,
it.
I will.
They just got appointed tonight.
I know, but you need to examine the ones who have not been doing their job. It takes more than an hour a month to get everything in order.
I don't think we're disagreeing. I think what we're saying is,
But they
let's
won't
get
do
some
it.
feedback from these two new members in the short term, and we can make decisions after that. We got to give it a chance.
Okay. Also, the COA board said they had an excess of $8,000 because they hadn't been paying Jen and Nancy. And instead of giving it back to the general funds, so we would have the money, they're having people in there measuring closets and measuring this and seeing what they can do to spend the money. It's not grant money, it's our money.
Again, you go back to the members that just got appointed and talk to them, see what,
But you don't even know about this. How can you not know about this?
because it's a large community. We do not micromanage boards and committees in town.
Well, perhaps you should look at some things.
But that's why the board should bring it to us, or you folks bring it to
Well,
us.
they don't, have you ever, other than when you made them come in here, do they communicate with you?
Well, if they're gonna,
No.
if they're going to make closets and change the structure of the building, the select board oversees this building. They will need to have our permission and the building commissioner's permit.
Well, they're just doing it to spend the money, because they think it's like grant money and they have to use it up.
Well, again, we're hoping for feedback from at least the two new members quickly.
No, that's what she said, that's what they said at the last meeting. And transparency and openness are vital to government, and I don't see that happening here. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did they iron it out yet, the warrant?
I don't know. I was trying to get that done before we moved into the warrant. We could, if you're nice to me. What's the status? Is it correct as the warrant is written?
It is correct, yes.
Did I-
The confusion was when the Finance Committee, the structure of the committee was amended. When they established it, they didn't want everyone's terms to expire at the same year and start over. So it's like a rotating membership, so.
The select board does.
Exactly, like all of the other.
That was just a
boards and
startup
Yeah.
configuration.
So everyone does a 3-year term unless you're filling in, for someone, for a vacancy or something.
Okay. Don't run away. Do I hear a motion to accept the election warrant,
So moved.
the ballot?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 You, they're already printed and everything.
You are a project at times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't run away. She's been yelling at me since the first grade.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, leave me alone.
How can that be when she's so much younger than you are?
I stood back a lot. You like that answer?
I'll work with it.
Okay.
It's for Jackie.
Thank you. There you go, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all set, Janine, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Are we?
I hope.
I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
We're still in open time for the public?
Nobody else came up?
Wait a minute, I'm public. I have a couple of questions.
Mr. Kanicki, could you state your name and address?
Charlie Konecki, just follow where the smoke is and you'll know where I live. Mr. Kemp, can you come to the podium for a minute? I have a couple of questions for you. Regarding Chapter 90 funding and regarding a flagpole. Last year, the town secured a flagpole for the front of this building. Do you have any projected anticipation as to when this is going to be established?
Not offhand, we're trying to finish up some other projects, but it is on our list of things to do.
Okay, the question's been coming up.
Dick has cornered me, Richard Frary has cornered me a couple times.
Do you think it could happen before Memorial Day,
Um,
on the 29th?
of next month?
Yeah,
I think we can try to shoot for that,
thank you.
okay?
You made Jackie's night. Now, we need an update of where we're spending our Chapter 90 money for this year and that. My understanding is you were going to collate all that information.
Yep, did you guys get my email today?
I have it here, yeah.
Okay. I sent you a summary. I don't know, do you want me to go over the numbers?
Not
Is
the
that
numbers,
useful?
just the streets as
Okay.
to
So,
activity.
understand that some of this was in order to comply with procurement laws. We bid some of this out last fiscal year, or the current fiscal year, which will go until June 30th. So the work on that backlog, or where we're spending it, we continue to work on East Street design. We have money allotted for that. The Glendale Road design for Phase 2. Safe routes to school, we have a little money left in there. That was for legal and easement acquisition necessary for that state sidewalk project. FY17, Birchwood Drive, a level paved overlay, Lead Mine Road and Brickyard Road from Gilbert Road to the Westfield line, both level paved overlay. Montgomery Road, cut back, chip seal, people know it as oil and stone. We're doing that on Montgomery Road. And then we're doing a rubberized chip seal, which is a little more durable for high traffic roads, on County Road South, Cold Springs Road, and Glendale Road. Pomeroy Meadow Road.
Road South starts, where is it, from the
County Road
intersection of
South
East
is
Street?
From, White Loaf Road,
White Loaf Road.
south to
South, okay.
Westfield line.
Just curious.
Pomeroy Meadow, we want to do what's called hot in-place reclamation with a bonded wear course, which is basically a thin paved overlay. And then I was instructed by you to hold back money for the legal and easement acquisition necessary for Glendale Road reconstruction.
Right, you're going to see that at the annual town meeting.
Okay. So, we started with $830,000. If we do all that work and everything comes out as estimate, again, it's an estimate, stuff can go over or under, we will be negative $2,800. We will be allotted an additional $317,000 this year for FY18, and I can go over with you the roads I would like to do, okay?
Unless you guys want to get into the next year.
They're all listed on that sheet, so the select board can at least be
I mean-
informed.
Further meeting, future meeting.
Can I, there's been a lot of talk about this, so, if you can let people know, on the record what you're thinking of for next year. That may answer some questions that some people have had that have come here, if you don't mind.
Sure. We need to do some crack sealing. Kevin Drive, Brittany Lane, and Caitlin Way all need crack sealing. Valley Road, I'd like to do a level overlay before it degrades any worse. Both Moose Brook Road and White Loaf Road, I'm looking at a rubberized chip seal. And East Street is always the wild card. I try to balance out if we get a really degraded section that we keep going out and addressing the same potholes. I'd go out and do an overlay on that particular section to hold it together. So I've estimated $3,000 worth. Could be more.
If things go the way they look like they're going to go, Glendale's going to be the next major state-funded road work.
Right, but that won't take Chapter 90. That will take TIP funds, Transportation Improvement Program.
Right, and that's what we want for East Street is TIP funds. We don't want to use
Yep.
Chapter 90 money.
Absolutely.
I want to say that so people understand the fact that there's two different pockets of money here.
Mhm.
And the TIP money is easier for us because it doesn't take it away from other town roads.
Easier in one respect, but harder to
find the money.
harder to get it too from the state.
Okay.
I have a couple non-Chapter 90 projects that I also want to work on, if you care. We need to do something about Town Hall, Fire Department, and the Police Department lots. I would suggest chip seal, or not chip seal, but crack seal, at least to stop water from percolating down, because once you start getting water into the subbase and you get frost, that's what starts breaking up pavement. And then Conant Park has 2 parking lots. There are a couple different things we could do, a bonded wear course or a level overlay. These are further down the road, so they're not as high priority, but they're something we should be thinking about.
Okay.
Further down the road.
I guess
Part of
pun
the
not
pun.
intended, but appreciated, Bob.
Yeah, it's the highway talk here versus.
Yeah, highway humor, yeah.
I just wanted to point out that there's been some talk that we have a large amount of money. I am of the opinion, and it's not a great idea to try to spend it down intentionally to zero. We have several projects, Russellville Road overlay that we completed last year was $110,000. That's a third of what we get in a year on one road. We have a lot of long roads that may have something come up, so
I mean,
I like having a little bit in the kitty.
just to address, I was going to address the same thing because it was alluded to a couple times that there's money sitting there that we're not using. But if you look at these figures, the balance forward, 830,000, we're going to use actually 832,000, like you said, and the fiscal 18 is 314,000, and we're going to use roughly 265. So that's only a difference of 50,000. There's not these hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting out there. So I just want to make sure everybody out there is clear on that. That's why we asked for this, so that people would know exactly what's there. Okay, so
We do have a large backlog,
right.
but a lot of
that's very reasonable.
A lot of it's happening soon.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. So thanks for bringing that up.
Not a problem.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And I actually got entertained at open time for the public.
There you go.
Okay, I guess we're going to move now into our annual town meeting. Warrants.
Warrant.
Finance Committee, would you mind getting closer to us a little bit so that we can just sort of move this forward? You think you're it? Well, we're comfortable with you. Take a copy. Enjoy yourself. See if you can follow along with this as it goes. You want me to sign it? I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. So we're shutting down for 5 minutes. We'll be back around 1:15.
Bathroom's so bad.
Where'd they go?
Welcome back, Town of Southampton Selectboard's meeting. We're going to take and review the proposed warrants for the annual town meeting now. Today's date's April 18th. Town warrant articles are for May 16th. I've projected them up on the screen for people to have a better view from home as to what this is. Bear in mind, some of these articles are so long, there's no way I can put the entire thing on the screen. I think the easiest thing to do is just go from one and just continue. Article 1, it's presentation of educational awards. That's pretty much a routine article that we deal with. Article 2 is presentation of certificates. That's another routine. We now have a citizens petition. Bob, this is posted online yet?
No,
Okay.
I can do that, but I thought we'd
Well,
wait to
I'm
see,
just-
yeah.
The problem with this is the viewers at home are going to see pieces of it, but there's no way they're going to see all of it. These petitions, we cannot change. They're petitions that the selectmen are obligated to just post on the town meeting. And they have to do with functionality of the town meeting. The other one is limit the influence of money in politics. So now let's get into the other articles for town meeting, and stop me, guys, if you see something you want me to stop at.
But, excuse me.
Yeah.
If you're an audience member at home and nobody's reading these articles, you don't know what we're talking about.
There is no way, Jackie, I am going to sit here and read page after page of all
No,
this.
but I just feel
Because
like
they
it's
are gonna
just-
be sleeping by the time I get done with some of these articles.
What,
Mr. Moderator, would you like to approach the podium?
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. The town moderator information, annual town meeting information session will be Thursday, May 4th, 7 o'clock in this room. And we won't read them all either, but we'll read some of them.
Some.
and
Some of them,
There'll be
right?
another opportunity.
read some of them?
Well, I have no problem with reading the articles that aren't bylaws, that have to do with money movements, stuff like that.
Okay, so.
But if you want me to read the wetlands thing, the wetlands
No,
thing
no,
is
no.
probably 4 pages long.
No.
Is this being shown on the screen so people can see it at home?
It's being shown on the screen,
Okay.
but like I said, it's like Article 4. I've left that up for a minute while we were talking so people
Right.
could read that. I don't know what the clarity is like at home.
Yeah, how's it look at home? What's
But-
the
So
connection
at
to
least they get a sense of what's going on.
I did this trying to give the audience at home something that they could see instead of us flipping pages.
Okay.
But there's a lot of these articles that are just way too massive that they can put on that screen. So, Article 5 is a proposal by the Conservation Commission for wetlands bylaw protection. Again, this is something that the Conservation recommended and requested to be placed on the town meeting. As you can see,
It's 13 pages.
it's 13 pages.
Yeah, you don't want to read that.
And Jackie has volunteered to read every
No, no,
syllable
no,
of it.
No.
You see what I mean, Jackie?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, just the gist of it anyways, you know?
Well, basically, it's to provide more control for the Conservation Commission to deal with wetlands issues in the community.
There you go. Thank you.
You didn't ask me for a summary.
And this is it in the, they were gonna try to link it into the budget.
I'm still trying to find the end of it.
Yeah, next week's, and
Gee, we passed this, we'll have half the
Page
town meeting done.
17.
The next article is amendment to the dog bylaws. I assume Finance doesn't have any comments with either one of those two articles yet? No. The next one is Article 7, certification for the town clerk and other town financial officers. Jackie, if you'd like to read that one.
Okay. Article 7, certification of the town clerk and town financial officers. To see if the town will vote to except MGL Chapter 41, Section 19K, and MGL Chapter 41, Section 10, 108P, 108P, and MGL Chapter 59, Section 21.5, 21A.5 to authorize the town to compensate the town clerk, the treasurer collector, the town accountant, the principal assessor by increasing their compensation for 10% where applicable, up to maximum of $1,000 annually for the successfully completed the necessary courses of study and training to become officially certified or take any other action relative thereto.
In summary, basically what this is going to do is it's going to be an incentive for town employees in those categories to basically get a bonus if they pass certain educational thresholds. Now here we go with another long one. This is the right to farm bylaw in Southampton. This was requested by the Agricultural Committee. Basically defines what agriculture is. It technically has no, in my mind, and I'm only one individual, teeth in the sense of restrictions or control of anything. What it does is it basically makes the residents and anybody moving into town aware of the fact that we consider ourselves a farming community. The only section in here that I highlighted myself was the disclosure notification. So when properties transfer, when the seller goes to sell the property, they notify the purchaser that this is a farming community. But it doesn't restrict the Board of Health from regulations, the Planning Board from regulations, zoning officer, all the rest of that. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's mostly just an acknowledgement that we're an agricultural community. Zoning bylaw amendments, marijuana. Would you like to chime in on this one, Bob, seeing you've gone the educational route?
This is a, this is a model marijuana bylaw produced by our town council. A number of law firms have produced the model, but basically it establishes a temporary moratorium on retail sales as well as some production until the end of June 2018, to give the town an opportunity to make some decisions about how they want to approach the new law legalizing personal use, recreational use of marijuana. So a number of communities are looking at this kind of a moratorium. Several have already adopted. It's just a matter of delay to give the town that opportunity to see what it wants to do, whether or not it wants to permit these sales or whether it wants to permit sales in certain zones, certain parts of town, or whether it just wants to prohibit sales altogether. I think the decision for the town is that there's revenue involved, and yet there's an obvious potential downside, but the upside would be the town would bring in some additional revenue. So that's the essence of the decision that has to be made.
Okay. Article 10 is a placeholder for the budget. That budget is being worked on between the finance teams in town. My hope is that by next Tuesday we have something that we can tangibly just move forward with. Does that seem reasonable, Mike?
I think you'll need more than one day, to be honest. When you look at the...
Grab the podium.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street Finance Committee. I think by the end of next week or the middle of next week, I think you will have something readily available, but there is a lot of work to be done in the budget, and there's a lot of difficult conversations. We are essentially $575,000 in the wrong direction for expenses. Of that, 350 are wage, salary increases. So there's a lot of difficult conversations to be had, and I think you can go through a lot of these. Maybe it could be done, but it's hours of back and forth going through the line items. So, I think it's a goal to have it done by the end of next Tuesday, but, we haven't, I don't think we've seen the COA budget, or is that?
It's in there.
Oh, it's in there now, okay.
It's only 2% increase over last year.
Okay, so the COA is in there now, the townwide budget's in there now, and then the smaller commissions. But there's a lot of conversations to be had. Pigeonholing us into one night next week, next Tuesday, you're gonna be rushing things, and I think.
What would you prefer?
I'm good with having a meeting next Tuesday, but scheduling something as a follow-up as well if another night's needed.
Do you think we should schedule just a separate meeting for this?
I think it would be helpful. I mean, if we had 2 hours to 3 hours to sit down as a finance team select board joint meeting, I think it'd be a lot easier. We'd be able to get going with the first line item instead of going through some of the other items in the beginning of the agenda.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to rush through it,
Well,
We could restrict the agenda on the May 2nd regular meeting.
Pardon me?
You have a May 2nd regular meeting coming as well, so we could certainly hold back on that agenda and maybe devote most of the meeting to.
Next week?
Well, next week is also,
We have next
I think
week.
it's going to be too soon, but I'm saying May 2nd is the next opportunity at one of your regular meetings.
well, what are we gonna have on the agenda for next week? If we're not gonna be at this point,
This warrant,
right, isn't gonna be available.
yeah.
So then why have a meeting because there isn't gonna be enough on the agenda to warrant a meeting? Should we hold this back and then go into the following week, the week of May 1st, and possibly schedule that Tuesday just for,
I guess my question is so is your agenda too full for next Tuesday?
no, but if, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way of use of time. You're telling me nothing's gonna be ready for next Tuesday.
No. The budget is ready, but we don't have anything balanced to present. I mean, there is a laundry list of things that essentially need to be cut. And we can base it off of your priorities, but that's still not enough. So to make concessions and changes in the budgets, we're going to need guidance because there's contractual raises that have been put in there that add to that 500.
So then we have a meeting next Tuesday, and the sole purpose of that meeting is the budget.
That works for us. We've basically scheduled joint meetings with you for the remainder till the town meeting.
So I guess my
to cover
question is,
this.
do you want to have the meeting earlier?
Earlier is fine, or maybe schedule another night next week also as a backup, because we have to post it.
Well, we have a problem because the following night is the candidates' night.
Yep. Well, next week, no.
The 26th is candidates' night.
Yep.
That's next week.
Yep.
So if we have a selectmen's meeting on Tuesday night and candidates' night on Wednesday night,
Start at 5 o'clock on Tuesday.
I have no problem with that.
Let me just
And if
check.
we dedicate that night solely to this, we can be here
5
till
o'clock.
midnight and get it wrapped up.
Yeah.
John always offers to buy pizza and he never delivers, just so we're all on the
I'll
same page.
notice that.
No, he has in the past.
No, he hasn't.
no, I
You're
haven't.
just- You're just defending him.
No,
I've
no.
offered.
He
You
has
said
brought pizza.
You said 3 or 4 hours, so if we solely have it from 5 o'clock, that's
I mean, I can send a
o'clock.
communication to the finance team just about reviewing between now and next week and having ideas. And I mean, I would recommend the select board do the same, review the budget. I mean, there's gonna be things that a person is in favor of or not in favor of, and just, have those ready, and it'll help going through some of the items, so.
Bob, can you post it for 5 o'clock this coming Tuesday?
Okay, 5 o'clock.
That'll give us more time, and we'll try to clear the deck of anything that we have to do other than this.
As of right now, this is the only item on the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but that changes quickly.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Actually, it is not. Tonight, you approved putting Article 1 of the bylaws on for next week.
Yeah, but
That's just an approval.
that's an approval. That should be,
Yeah.
and they're a very understanding committee.
Them to the May 2nd, that's all, right?
Yeah, we don't want to kick this into May, because...
No, not this.
I don't.
I'm talking about the bylaw.
No, I understand, but Charlie before was saying maybe May
Yeah,
2nd.
I wouldn't.
All right, so that's the annual budget, which is really, how many millions? 175,000. No, that's what we're out of whack. What's? 16 million?
Well, the revenue is 16.1.
All right, 16 million. The point is it's a big budget that we gotta,
So you get through about 4 million an hour in 4 hours. We're good.
so we're doing good, huh? You'd think he could buy a pizza for that.
Let's just put it on the record, if you want a pizza, I'll buy it.
Okay, you're buying a pizza, it's on
Okay.
record.
Every time I offer, they give me a hard time, they never want it.
All right, I want meat lovers.
You want meat lovers? Of course you do.
Oh, yes. Article 11, transfer station enterprise budget.
That is the most recent budget.
Hi. This isn't going to be final tonight because we need to rearrange how this is worded, because basically what this does is it will raise and appropriate the same money in two different pockets of money. I'm going to go back. So in our annual budget, our annual operating budget, we will raise and appropriate monies for insurances, workman's compensation, retirement, and all that. That is what this indirect cost line is based on. And so we can't say that I don't want to say this. It needs to be separated at a separate line item, that it's already been raised and appropriated in the general fund budget in Article 10. So we need to put that wording in there, because the auditors have caught that a few times. We changed it once, and then we changed it back, and so we really need to make sure that that's separate.
Okay, I took this, I modeled this after
Last year's, which was
last year's
incorrect.
ATM.
Right.
So,
We need to separate out those indirect costs for
Okay.
water and for transfer station as a separate line item. I'll give you I have some examples upstairs, but we need to separate that out.
So we all agree, as long as it's modified, it's acceptable.
Yeah, it has to be, because we'll get in trouble again.
We're always in trouble. Don't you notice?
So,
All right. Winter Enterprise, 2018, I'm assuming that's a placeholder?
yeah, those numbers are now available. I'm going to add those in tomorrow.
All right. Article 13, transfer,
Water.
you want to talk about me to talk? Okay, so the water enterprise budget is going to be adjusted a little bit. It's still going to be balanced, but the contingency that wasn't necessarily thought of at that point in time was when the water department's going to go and potentially borrow, short-term borrowing for those projects, we need to incorporate whatever that principal and interest is into this budget for next year to be able to pay those off. So it will be adjusted just a little bit. So we will give you those new numbers.
all right.
Does that make sense?
And Bob's gonna do this, and Water Department's gonna check it to make sure that it's where we're going, right?
What do you mean?
It's-
We're gonna come up with the numbers.
Yeah, you just come up with the numbers.
We're gonna come up and estimate,
Yeah,
whatever
right,
it will
okay.
be. You'll have revenues to compensate for whatever the
Yeah.
extra principal and interest on any potential short-term borrowing that happens next year.
Yeah, as long as it's balanced.
Yeah. Sorry.
Article 13, I just put in there in case.
In case.
In case.
Well, there's I think 26,000
In that
in free cash that you don't want to lose at the end of the year, so if you don't use it, you don't use it,
Right, and I personally would rather see it goes back into stabilization in case we have to pull it for something. Any questions on that?
no.
Okay. Transfer to the Board of assessor's budget, $2,200. Any thought from finance on that?
So is this yeah, I know we had a similar budget at the last meeting. We recently approved the PCF for the assistant assessor, which I thought covered this, so. Yeah, so this may be a leftover from the last town meeting, we just need to clarify that.
So we may not need this.
Yeah, because the most recent PCF for the assistant assessor, I thought covered this.
Yeah. No, just take it out.
This could be an article in excess of that they put in,
I understand. The reason we're doing this is because we're trying to find out what we need.
Well, we'll verify tomorrow, and this was given to me for this warrant. So if it's all covered a different way,
All right.
we'll take it out, take it off.
Article 15, install apparatus on town hall roof to prevent ice dams. We've tried a number of, I pushed this thing. We tried a number of electricians to get quotes. We can't seem to be able to get anybody to give us any prices. All we're trying to do is put an electrical outlet on the side of the building so that if we put a heating unit on the roof to melt the ice, we have access to plug it in and an on-off switch to control it. The circuits are upstairs, they're in the main panel, they're even marked for ice, but was never wired when the building was rehabbed. So all this was to basically get a heavy enough outlet outside with a control switch so the custodian could put it on when we needed it and shut it off when we don't.
Well, a timer, most likely.
Or timer or whatever.
Forget about it.
But the other part to it was, we didn't know what it would cost to put those wires up. Candidly, what you put on a home is only a few $100s. So the thought was, well, if we can get the outlet there, then we can move steps forward. The real idea was to try to insulate the attic, but we're not going to be able to do that until we get our grant money for the green community. So it's going to be a time issue there, so if that's going to be available next winter. So that's what that article is about.
Bob, I'm assuming we're taking it from the capital stabilization, not the operating, right? May want to throw capital in there.
Why don't we just take it out of free cash?
Well, if we take money from free cash for the consultant, we may not have enough.
No, you're talking finance.
Reserve fund, yes, you're right.
I'm talking to free cash.
Yeah.
Free
We got
cash.
26,000 free cash.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9,400?
I'll change stabilization fund to free cash.
So free cash?
What everybody-
Okay.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah, that's good.
Because there's no sense of putting it back in the capitalization just to move it back out of capitalization.
Right.
Transfer of, I lost my,
16.
yeah, I'm looking. Transfer, what's this, water bills?
No, it's a septic betterment program.
Oh, yes. You want to?
So, this is the yearly pay down of the septic betterment loan. And septic betterment loan is held in one fund, which is a special revenue fund. We take it from the special revenue fund, transfer it to the general fund to pay down that loan. And this is the amount that the loan is equal to for,
Right.
till like 2020, I think. 2023, something like that.
Okay. Questions?
Nope.
Article 17, vote to
stand
transfer $100,000 to fund the EMS ambulance-related expenses.
Every year, I think this was passed in 1987, I have it upstairs, anyway. Every year, we've taken money from the ambulance fees account, which is ambulance receipts reserve, which is supposed to be for buying a new ambulance or any ambulance EMS-related expenses. You know, to help offset the general fund and whatever ambulance expenses we have. you can't take any more than what's actually in that fund at the time of the annual town meeting. I went through and prorated and tried to calculate how much I thought would be at that point in time, but I didn't want to take all of it. Last year, we took a big chunk of it. We took $158,000. So I used $100,000 based on what we've been collecting so far and prorated it based on how many months we are going to collect. And that was the number that was comfortable with leaving a little bit of money in there, because even if you have your full, ALS service, you still have to potentially pay for transfers or mutual aid, however that works. It's $275 each time Easthampton comes. It's been dwindling, yearly. I think we paid $3,300 last year, but you need something in there because you never know what might happen. So that 100 was a comfortable amount in order to transfer to offset some of those ambulance expenses. So,
So this Article 18, Ambulance Stabilization Fund,
so about 3 years ago, my suggestion was so we wouldn't take all the money from the ambulance fees and use it for yearly expenses. My suggestion was to set up an ambulance stabilization fund and put $25,000 in there a year to help pay for, accumulated over time to help pay for an ambulance. The chief and I had spoke potentially maybe increasing that to 50, but with that other article that's on here with potentially borrowing for a new ambulance. What we can do is, I guess that would have to go on another town meeting warrant, but what we could do is take those payments out of this $25,000 stabilization fund each time we have to pay those monthly payments for that ambulance. So we should still continue to fund that because we have 2 ambulances, one is up and I don't know when the other one's gonna go down. So it's just a way to kind of make sure that you can't touch it for anything else. And so currently there is, I think there's like $75,000 in there. We've been putting $25,000 and then whatever interest it gets put right in that.
And how much is an ambulance? I forget.
It's $318,000, I think, something like that, yeah. Yeah.
we're gonna get into a new ambulance in this.
It's another, yeah, so right now ambulance has ambulance stabilization has $75,515.10, so. We've been putting $25,000 away each year. Which isn't nearly enough, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna sit down now.
Thank you.
So Charlie,
Yeah.
is this related to any of the second shift?
No,
The
because
100?
the second
Okay.
shift doesn't exist right now.
Right, I didn't know if any of this was allocating money for that, that's all.
No.
This is, we've consistently done this every year.
Okay,
The other part's in the budget on line item.
I see, got it.
This will help offset whatever that is.
Yeah.
So if your whole ambulance is $250,000 for the whole year, this 100 will offset. You only need to raise 150 of that thousand.
And if we get a second shift functioning, we'll minimize transfers, it's gonna actually bring more money in.
Yeah, those transfers aren't it's not a lot of money anymore.
Oh.
Less than $5,000.
That's because they do so much themselves. Yeah.
Article 19, accept 82 Brickyard Road Extension. This is basically a gift to the Conservation Commission.
How many acres is that total? Does anybody know? Just
I'm
curious.
gonna guess and say like 4, but it's a guess.
Okay.
It's the land between the railroad tracks and the river down in there, out. It's off of Brickyard Road. It's a strange piece, but it's really floodplain.
It's a Brickyard Road extension, so it's on the Sheldon side.
Yes. Yep, if you were going past Sheldon's on the left, you'd go and it would curve, and when you start to curve, it's on the left out that way.
Okay.
Which I mean, well, I guess I could do this if you really want me to, Jim, but I think that,
This is a golf course. There you go. See American Buildings up there, Charlie? You can, it's up in the
Yeah.
center. That's American. Go to the left. No, your other left. Now go down, straight down, right, almost there, a little more. Down, that's Brickyard Road Extension, I think, right in there. That's Sheldon's. You can see it at the bottom left.
Yeah, there's Sheldon's, there's
Yep.
Brickyard Road Extension, and I think we're talking somewhere in here.
Okay.
There's Brickyard Road Extension there.
Is it in between other town-owned land?
Yeah, the rail trail, once we buy it, it'll be
Okay,
abutting it.
so it'll be,
It butts the conservation land up there too.
okay.
So it's a nice dovetail of everything.
Beautiful.
I just thought I'd bring the laptop and make it a little easier for people.
We're impressed.
Jackie, you're up. New sign for Town Hall.
Yikes.
Charlie, they didn't hear you.
Okay, Article 20, new
Don't turn
sign
the television down.
at Town Hall. To see if the town will vote to transfer $3,000 from the free cash to the selectmen's expense budget to fund the purchase of a new sign for the Town Hall, or take any other action relative thereto.
And this was caused by the deplorable sign condition that we have in front of this building?
Yes.
And this was deferred from the January
Town meeting.
special town meeting.
Yeah.
So I have just a quick question. Is this the $3,000, is that an estimate we've received from a company? Is it a swag of a number? The reason I bring that up is because when we put a number on something and we don't know that's the cost, we end up coming back to find more money in the future. Now, $3,000 to me seems like it can get you a nice sign, but
Right.
I just like to confirm that we've covered our bases. That way we're not, if we need to ask for 4, we should just ask for 4.
I was not involved in this initial, this is Charlie's baby.
How so? You asked for the sign to be...
I know, but I didn't get any bids or anything.
Well, then where did the $3,000 come from?
I don't know.
Bob?
The 3,000 was used in January. And I
Go
just,
ask Mom, ask Dad.
I just made a note, because, in other words, this cost and this article came up prior to my coming here, and I just assumed that I would put the same article on for this meeting. So if you want me, I can check around on,
Bob, send me an email and remind me. I'll check my database and see if there's some bids that are in the database.
okay.
You know, at my age, going that far back in time causes issues. I like how this just goes full circle back to me at the end.
I guess my concern is all these little small items are small, but we're trying to cut how much out of this year's, our fiscal year 18 budget? 570. Yeah, and we're approving these small items here.
Yeah, the problem is that that's coming out of our free cash account.
Yeah, right.
That's not gonna help our budget in next year's,
Correct.
Just stay in there, though.
just saying, it's just gonna end up being whatever free cash is the coming year.
Right.
All right, 5-year contract with the police copier.
Contracts over 3 years have to be approved by town meeting.
That's about it. Money was already allocated, if memory serves. No?
No, this is new. Him and I talked about this, and that's why I told him he needed to do this, because it was for 5 years. He's getting 3 quotes, he's gonna need a new copier, and if he extends it over 5 years, the cost is much less, and so that's why I asked him if he would put this on here, because you need to approve anything over 5, so.
So
It's gonna be
not-
less than he's actually paying now.
Okay, so it's in his budget projected for fiscal 18?
Correct.
It's just because it's over 3 years?
It's over 3 years, correct,
Okay.
and the cost,
So
based on what he's looking at, is less than what he's paying this year,
No
so.
additional monies?
No.
Okay.
Good.
No. I'm just gonna throw it.
These revolving accounts in Article 22 are the same same revolving accounts we always re-vote on? There's no changes in any of this, even
We
dollar
need to
amount?
change some of the spending limits.
All right, we're increasing those.
We're increasing those. So, for instance, the Council on Aging van, and this should say 18 spending limit, not 17, but currently for FY17, we are allocated $31,000 from the FRTA, which is the Franklin Regional Transit, in order to use to spending for the van, so I think we should increase this to 31. I don't know what their grant will be for next year, but if it's the same or more, I won't have to come back to you later to actually increase that spending limit.
So if we get more than what our spending limit is, it goes to waste?
No, it's just that I would have to come to you and say, we need to increase the spending limit,
Right, that's what I
all.
mean, yeah.
Exactly. And in FY18, these are gonna change, these will have to become bylaws, but the DOR with the Modernization Act gave us a reprieve of a year in order to put this on this town meeting warrant this way. The next one we should change is electrical inspections. Currently, we're at $17,000 of what we collected versus which is what we owe him. So I would increase that to 20, because if our building permits are going up, we should make sure we have enough money to be able to pay him out. And I would also change the plumbing to 20, because they pretty much go hand in hand.
Sounds like new growth numbers are going to go up as well.
And so the rest of it seems to be pretty consistent, so let me just check the planning, the zoning board is okay.
I missed it.
I'm just basing these on kind of what we've already spent this year, so
Oh,
I
plumbing,
don't want to have to
okay.
come back and say, hey, can we increase these spending limits? I want to just kind of keep
I
them,
got that.
so.
Got it.
I guess we're moving into community preservation, unless you have something else.
No, I don't. I have something with that too, but you can make sure you do that one.
I'll be ready if you have a question.
Well, the first article is Article 23.
Excuse me.
Transfer $10,000 for undesignated accounts. That's basically your operating account, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll introduce myself. Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee.
Cover girl.
Cover girl?
Yeah,
Town report.
embarrass me. This first one is our operating expenses. And one thing that we also do with that, because part of operating is to help groups do appraisals and things like that in case they're bringing a project in. So we can do that kind of thing with it, as well as if there's another chance for people to go and get information, a statewide conference or something. They haven't had a lot of those lately, and they've got a lot of new, so I wouldn't be surprised if we won't be seeing some. They've got a lot of new cities coming in. So anyway, we've done this 10,000 for years. Okay. The next one is funding for legal costs to accept a land donation, and that is, again, going back to the Brickyard Road. There will be legal costs with it. And they've estimated, well, they've kind of got a figure of about 1,600, but we say up to just in case. But this would be that property that was addressed in the previous one. And if the town doesn't accept it, we don't vote on this.
Mike has a question?
Can we just reference the address of the property?
It's, well, you could. It's the one that's in
82 Brickyard Road Extension.
82 Brickyard Road, Article 19.
If a layman reads it, like they may not know that those two are related, it may just be helpful to have the address of the article.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was wondering when I read it, was what, I didn't immediately go back.
Bob, can you tweak it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it doesn't say up
Good.
to, maybe we should put the word up to?
Yes, up to,
It's not in there.
yeah, up to 2,000. Okay, Article 25, funding to support Historical Commission matching grant. They have received a grant from the, State Historical Records Advisory Board to work on the Revolutionary War grant sites and stones. And a part of that is that I think their grant is 15, but we have to give 10 as a matching grant. The next one is funding for Norris School playground equipment. And this came from the PTO. And it's for $65,000. And again, it should vote to transfer up to $65,000 from community preservation funds so that they can create a playground for pre-K and kindergarten children. They said children were getting hurt on the larger playground equipment. They're trying to play on it and they're too little to be on it. I don't think anything seriously, but nevertheless, a bump or a bruise to a 4-year-old is...
Ouch. Robert, you had something you want to add?
Yeah.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. Virginia, could you please share why it's okay to transfer funds to a PTO but not to a town committee?
Well, we can.
To the town committee, didn't we have, but we couldn't before?
We can't pay a town department.
Good.
But we can give the historical commission.
Great.
Or the park commission. But we can't pay town departments to do work for us. That's the difference. And we can actually give grants with the town meeting approval. We can't spend any of our money. We can only ask the town to let it be spent. We've actually had requests from a number of non-town groups. Funding for signage in Southampton parks. The Parks Commission said they needed new signs or more signs in a lot of places. They have especially a lot of out-of-towners coming through Hampshire United with the soccer, going over to the Labrie Fields. They don't know where Strong Road is when you're coming from another town. And so there'd be signs even to guide, say, Town Park this way or something, plus other signs. Yes?
One of the signs I see missing is handicap parking signs at these parks, especially at the Conant Park Pavilion. We have a ramp so people can get to the pavilion, but we have no handicap parking.
So if there was
some signs there.
Signs. Is the parking lot marked for that?
It's gravel.
Oh.
But that doesn't. Then all the more reason for a sign.
Well, we can suggest that to the Park Commission, that among their signs, they get some, but if it could be marked. But I'm sure.
They came to us about handicap doors, handrails, all the rest of it. I think the park should have some handicap.
Yeah. Well, that's something that the Park Commission could be apprised of. The next two, funding for cleaning and repairs to Revolutionary and Civil War graves, and the granite markers for Revolutionary and Civil War veterans' graves, are the ongoing projects that Mr. Frary has been working on for a number of years to make sure that all of the veterans' graves are up to and are recognized. That's it, except for one, which Vicki reminded me of, that will have to be done, which is our allocation one, and she will provide that. Each year, we have to put aside 10% in open space recreation, 10% for affordable housing, and 10% for historical preservation. And then the rest goes into undesignated, and that should be done officially at a town meeting.
Virginia, if you can just get me the numbers, the 10% numbers, that's a boilerplate article, I can just.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
I'll give you some estimates.
All right,
Thank you, Virginia.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, Article 30, new vehicle for the police department. Operation Stabilization Fund, $53,523. My understanding was that was going to be borrowed money. Yes, Mike?
Well, I had a question on this, and this is probably a Vicky question, but the 53,523, that's the price of the vehicle that is patrol ready to go out? There should be no other costs
I
associated?
believe so, too.
Okay. Just want to confirm, I know we had
It says that in the article itself. On all these articles, can we add the words "up to"? Because none of them seem to have them.
Okay.
Okay, Article 31.
Well, back to 30.
Well, are we going to borrow
or-
this money, or are we going to take it out?
Right, on 30.
Stabilization.
Well, we had a discussion about borrowing this money, but I see it's coming out of operational stabilization. I assume the finance team had made that decision.
Oh, no, we don't make that decision. So we were involved in the conversation when the previous cruiser had some transmission issues, which is why we did the original transfer from our reserve account for the 3,500, because the plan was spend the short money to get the cruiser operational for the remainder of the year, and then the recommendation was to go to the operating stabilization account for the new cruiser. There was discussion about borrowing at that moment, basically trying to procure a new vehicle at that moment, but with I think there was a demand in inventory, there was no guarantee he'd have a car within 2 months' time. So the short money got him an operational vehicle right away, which leads us to the utilizing operating stabilization for the cruiser.
How much is in that, Vicki?
Answers my question. Seems I missed another staff meeting.
No, I remember that too, because we looked at leasing, and then Donna said the cost of money was so low, it was better just to borrow it.
Yeah,
That's the last I remember.
That's the last I heard of it.
No.
I mean, if there was, this was one of the options we put forward was the operating. We didn't, I didn't look into the leasing or any sort of purchase.
No, it's a process, Mike,
Yeah.
you know as well as I do. We get it at the beginning, eventually it rolls into your team, then it rolls back to us, and then we all sort of figure out, yeah, that works, and we keep going. Ambulance. We're in need of a new ambulance. My understanding is this is going to be borrowed money, and it's going to be paid out of the ambulance account, which is what it was set up for anyways. Any thoughts, questions, or anything?
I have one question. So this is another vehicle for the inventory. Have we circled back to the previous consultant report on the inventory of the fire department and possibly, getting rid of some of the equipment that was recommended in that to be released or sold as
My memory
property?
of the ambulances, there was no recommendation of cutting back on ambulances.
No, it was fire apparatus. but
Fire
it's-
apparatus, yes.
It's more equipment being maintained by essentially the same department. That's why I'm asking.
Right.
We're adding another piece of equipment. I don't know if we're getting rid of any, but it's.
Yeah, we're not going to have 3.
We're getting rid of an ambulance.
Okay. Okay. So it's not changing.
No.
Have we gone back to that consultant report?
We have been going back occasionally, sporadically, but the reality is there's another fire truck they need to take down too and retire.
Okay.
Yes, Donna?
So what, I guess I didn't really look at these before tonight. Short term, what's short term? Usually it will say borrow up to so many years. Like, there should be some, how long, what's short term? Everyone's short term can be a different opinion. So is it for borrow $319,993 for up to 5 years, up to 7 years? What's short term?
What's the life expectancy of this thing? Does anybody know that?
I think it needs to be specified in the article.
I agree with you. It
For
does
up
need
to, and then if we, if there's more money coming in receipts and we want to pay it off sooner because I'm borrowing it on a yearly basis, but I think it needs to be specified in the article up to how many years.
The discussion I heard was 5 years, the original discussions.
Okay.
But
I mean, they can sustain that on top of the
I don't know.
$100,000 or whatever that they're putting into the budget already from the ambulance receipts?
I do not know.
Yeah, that's my question.
I don't know.
I would have a concern there because then we have leaned heavily on that account in the past few
Right.
years. If you're adding a known cost that's gonna be in here for 5 more years, I mean, that is taking away from.
And is this is this $319,900 the total cost? Is that the total cost of a new ambulance?
I wasn't
I'm just,
part of that.
because we have 75,000, 77,000 probably with interest somewhere around there in the ambulance stabilization fund
Right.
now.
So that would bring it to 244,000.
If that's the total price, or is it more like 400,000 and this is considered, I don't know.
Right,
It's
right.
allegedly total price from the
319 is the
chief,
total
yeah.
price?
Yep.
So I think that we should take off what we've already got in the ambulance stabilization, at least 75,000 of it.
Right.
And every year, we've been budgeting 25,000 to go into the stabilization for the purchase of a new one. So instead of budgeting that 25, like, maybe we can budget it and take that 100,000. If we budgeted another 25 for 18, so then in 18, we have 100,000 in stabilization for ambulance, and take that right off the top, so then we're only borrowing 219,000 or 220,000
That makes sense.
over 5 years.
Right.
Bob, you want to look into the crunching those numbers?
Okay.
I mean, that's still,
Also, if there is a second shift running the ALS, the fee there is considerably higher. Has that additional revenue been estimated?
I haven't, no.
Wasn't,
I don't know if the chief has done something, but I haven't done anything yet.
wasn't the,
but we're already doing calls supposedly at those hours anyway, so why is it going to be more? Don't we
Because-
have ALS service now, on call?
One
People are
shift.
on standby.
Right, but if you add a second shift, there's more revenue.
Revenue increase because of the fact
Right.
that we're receiving that revenue now. We're operating at a quasi agreed upon situation, but we're still operating as an ALS for the second shift. So we are receiving that revenue. Now, there may be some lost time as you get later into the evening, earlier morning, but my understanding is we respond to the majority of the calls, so I don't know if there'll be a major revenue.
I agree with you, Mike. I don't see there being a big skew of numbers with this thing. I think we're covering those calls.
I don't know, unless, I've been seeing a lot of payments going out for intercepts, so I don't know what the deal is with the intercepts, if the standby people aren't responding, or if there's, or we don't have full ALS coverage, because we only have two, like, basics on call instead of a paramedic and a basic,
That's what my guess.
yeah.
All right, point taken.
So if intercepts are up, they're running basic out of the station here, and they're intercepted for ALS.
right,
Okay?
but we have to pay a chunk of
So
money.
if you have a second shift, would you not, and running ALS exclusively, would not that increase revenue?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to pay the intercept fee as well.
You wouldn't have to pay the intercept fee.
I don't
So
know.
there should be a difference, but nobody has, okay, nobody has forecasted that yet.
You don't have the figure in front of you of this is how many intercepts
Correct.
you've done during that shift for 365 days. There very well could be. It could be 10 intercepts, it could be 50 intercepts. We don't know,
Good question for the chief.
Right, we should get
Got a
that.
shopping list. All right,
So
Glendale Road
before we do that, I mean, it sounds like we have a lot of questions. Can we get some answers for the next meeting?
That's the idea.
Yeah. I mean, we can always take something off the warrant, but there's a whole bunch of questions that we should get answers to. Maybe we can get the chief in.
I don't know why, what you could do is just, instead of using that whole $75,000, is just appropriate each, whatever your payment is. You know, I don't know how much the interest is gonna be and all that other stuff for the 300 and whatever $1,000, but if you say it's, 50 grand, you just, however, whatever the monthly payments are, or whatever the yearly payments are, you take it out of that stabilization fund instead of taking it all at one time. That's another thing you could do
Yeah, but
too.
aren't you gonna? That's what, yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
was going.
I guess you have to figure out how much that interest is, but you have to appropriate it one way or the other. You have to have an article to,
So just sweep it out every month automatically? Yeah, but what Donna's saying is less interest if you do it monthly than annually, right? Is that what you were saying, Donna?
well, however the payments are gonna be.
Yeah. No. But if we can save some money.
All right. On this next one, I drafted an article. Then we got the DOT's draft of the article, which wasn't well done, shall we say. And so these two articles that you see were drafted by town council after extensive discussions with the DOT office. They added a second article.
And just so everyone sees where this is, if I can find my way around town. There's Gun Road.
You're in Easthampton up there.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah, you're going. Going the other way.
Just look for that nice little red barn.
That's the section
Yeah,
of
there it
Glendale
is.
Road from Route 10 all the way to Palmer Meadow Road. And as you can see, there's a lot of homes on there, so there's going to be a lot of easements we're going to be talking to people about. It looks so much better on this screen than that screen. So, any questions on these two articles? Randall, you're going to be neck deep in this. Any thoughts? Okay. That said, we're going to go into the water department. I dare not say anything. I'm going to let the water department take the lead on this one.
Matt Christie, Middle Road Water Commission. We've, Article 34 here is related to our capital improvement plan. It's to acquire a parcel or an easement off of Coleman Road, which will allow us to build a permanent pump station with the city of Easthampton to provide the entire town with water in case of an emergency or during extended downtime for our system. We've identified this parcel based on hydraulics, based on our system, based on discussions with the city of Easthampton. That's relative to article number 34.
You want me to show the area?
You certainly can.
Now, was it in the north or the south side of Coleman?
It's going to be on the north side of Coleman Road. We are in the area where I think, is it A to Z storage or whatever that?
Okay.
It's on that side of the road.
So we're,
I think you're in Easthampton.
I'm always at,
There's the storage right there.
Nope. Pan up again.
there you go. All right, so we're talking, that's where the bike path ends, or right here?
Right. So just
So it's between there and College Highway, and it's in here?
right.
And that's Southampton land?
Yes.
Because I know the property line's kind of weird coming across here.
Right. I think it goes through the middle of Peebles Tractor Supply,
Yeah.
and then cuts across diagonally towards the back end of the storage units.
Oh, that far over?
This way?
No,
the other
the
way.
other storage units.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it, yeah, the store, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Wow.
Just to talk, just to know.
Perfect. Sounds like a good plan
Now,
to me.
here's the big one.
Right. This was 35 and 36. I think is the next one. I want to talk about them together because both of them are asking for borrowing, but it's not the total. It's not both numbers together, and we want to make that clear. And I think we need to revise the language of both of these articles to make that clear. So in Article 35, we're looking for 2.7 million, which is the total amount in our 5-year capital plan that we're looking to borrow to implement projects from a rebonding or from a bonding program through the town. Article 36 is to borrow money from the SRF loan program through the state, and that's a lesser amount at 1.7. But what we're trying to do is say if we can get the 1.7 through the SRF program, which is a competitive loan program, we'll take that because it's a lower rate. If we don't get that, then we still have the ability to do all the projects that we want to do. What the SRF is doing and why there's a gap of $1 million is there's a time period that we won't be able to start any projects through the SRF till at best next construction season, likely the following construction season. So we lose 2 seasons to do any work. The bonding authorization will allow us to do work potentially during this current season and at least at the beginning of next construction season.
So what language are you, changes are you?
We need to add language that makes it clear to the voters that it's not if they vote for one, and if they vote for both, it's not whatever the math comes out to be, 4.5.
Well, this is just the warrant that would be posted. I mean,
right.
In the warrant that'll be passed at the town meeting, there'll be summaries.
Yep.
Can you make that clear? You make that clear in the summaries, or would you rather?
Whatever you prefer. We just want to make sure there's no confusion that we're not looking for the combined total to borrow. We're just looking for that 2.7, and it could be split up into 2 different pools.
So let me ask you a question, and Mr. Floyd can tell us. So if we put Article 35 on and that gets passed, and we put Article 36 on and that gets passed, that's not really what we want. Our first choice is 36, and if we don't get that, 35? Is that accurate?
Our first choice is 35 because that gives us the entire amount.
Okay.
36 allows us to go after essentially a lower rate local program. I'll call it local because it's through the state.
So would that 1.7 come off of the 2.7? Yes? Okay.
Right.
So
So
if
in
we
other words,
got-
that 2.7 would become 1.
Okay, so if we don't get Article 36, we would still want Article 37, or 35.
35, yeah.
Yes.
And if we get Article 36, that's a bonus because it'll be a lower rate.
But the low interest loan is not a guarantee that we're gonna get.
Right, so you want both of them to pass.
It gives us options,
Right,
essentially,
okay,
is what.
okay.
Does 35 give you the immediate start?
It gives us the
36
ability to do short-term borrowing, so yes.
So you could start this season.
Right.
could modify 35, something say, should we get the SRF? 35 gets reduced by the amount we get in Article 36.
Yeah.
Okay. Does finance have any, does finance have any questions or concerns about?
Correct, but not SRF.
Okay.
We won't be able to start with SRF money this year.
No, the Water Commission presented to us with their budget last week. Yeah, so we're good.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes the amount of articles. Does anyone here have a concern of articles that might be missing?
Yes.
The planning board meets tomorrow night, and I believe all the paperwork is in order. I'm pretty sure it's all in order for the acceptance of the road, Bissonnet Circle. That's missing off this. It's Bobcat Hollow is Bissonnet, it's the same. One and the same.
Just making sure I'm,
Bobcat Hollow is the development, Bissonnet is the
okay.
road.
So you gotta get that article involved.
You're pretty comfortable with
I reviewed it initially, it looks like everything's in line, but the planning board is meeting tomorrow and going over, I believe, probably gonna be recommended, but yet to be seen.
Yeah, Donna, come up to the podium.
We also discussed putting an article on for the health insurance.
For
Health insurance, because it's gonna be over this year. I didn't,
a
there's
transfer.
that one on there, right? I didn't see it.
I don't have a transfer for that. Well, we can do that several ways, right? We
But
don't
it's
have
gonna
to
be,
have-
it's gonna be quite a bit of money, so that's why I
so
thought
it's gonna
maybe it should be an
it'll
article.
It'll exceed the maximum for the transfer.
Yeah, so we're not gonna be able to just make
It'll
that
exceed
up.
the maximum for the 60-day transfer authority. Oh, that's right, the modernization took the max off.
But I don't think that we'll have $50,000 left over, and, between a whole bunch of accounts to make that money up.
Besides any other deficits that they're making.
Well, the question is where to find the money.
Well, I thought maybe operating stabilization.
Yeah.
I don't know where else you're gonna take it from, but
Now, do you know how much that is?
I'll have to
You'll have to get an
redo the
estimate.
numbers again, but I estimated it was somewhere around 50,000.
It'll be in the budget.
Is there a way to draft an article that would take it from operating stabilization, I'm just thinking out loud, if necessary, but if at the end of the year transfers could reduce that sum,
Yeah,
possibility that it
I mean, I
could.
think if it's approved and you don't need it, then
it
you
has to go
don't.
back to stabilization,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we could certainly take as much as we
So
possibly can
we'll
transfer
we'll write
out.
up the 50, and then if we don't need it, nothing happens. It just stays in stabilization.
Or if we only needed 30, then 20 of it stays in
Stays in
stabilization.
correct.
Mr. Martin, you had a question relative to health insurance?
short-term disability. We talked about providing short-term disability to the employees of the town, and we kind of let it drop off a couple months ago. So I want to put it back on the agenda so we can look at putting it into the fiscal 18 budget.
Originally, we were putting that in a budget to fund it. It was basically an insurance policy. We lost track of it, to be quite blunt, between transitions to the town administrators and such.
Yeah, we took it specifically out of the changes we made from the personnel board so we could study it more and come up with a cost, and Jim did some work on it, but then we just kind of let it drop off the agenda. So in order to get it into the budget, we need to put it back on the agenda and decide what we want to do.
Yeah, instead of the town right now self-funds that, self-insures, and we're just taking that liability off the town and have a fixed, I think it was somewhere around, was it around 11 or 12,000, I think, in
Yeah.
that ballpark, if I remember right. It's been quite a while.
Yep. So can we put that back on the next agenda that has some space?
Well, we got to put it in the budget.
Yeah, true.
Well, we don't need a warrant article to do that, though. We can, no, okay.
Yeah, but there's a number in there now that we pay out. I don't know what that is, what the last year. for disability, short-term?
Oh, 75%?
Yeah, we right now pay 75%, so what is that? What did we pay out the last year? It's probably gonna be pretty close to a wash, I think. It's just, we're trying to eliminate the, possibility for a big exposure or if something massive happens. Catastrophic, yeah.
So is that something you can get to Bob and he can let us know what that number is? If it's roughly the same, it'd be a wash in the budget, which would be nice. We just need to account for it.
Okay.
I know some years I've heard numbers around 15 to 16,000 we have paid, and some other years down as 5. So, we'll see how that looks.
At least with the short-term disability in there, we'll have a budget number that'd be constant all the time. I want to say it was like $16 a month per employee.
Yeah.
And with the 75% payout, you never know because you don't know what's going to happen.
There's a difference between the department too. I mean, if you're in a department, some departments have to cover those positions with overtime and other departments absorb it and just everybody sets it up.
Yeah. Depends when it happens too. Middle of winter is tougher, I would imagine, for you. Yeah. So we don't want to let it drop off the agenda.
Okay, anything else open here? If not, I'm going to be calling for executive session.
So the goal is to have this, changes
Next
made
week.
here as well as having the operating budget for fiscal 18 in here by the time of your next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. Since we're going to be here for the budget discussion, that would make sense to have it then.
Right. And because there's so many minor tweaks, I don't want to vote on accepting this until we...
Okay, I'm good.
All right, executive session?
I'm going to put them together.
You got to read it.
I know, I'm just
Well,
making
no.
sure everybody's...
The law says we have to post this.
I move that the
without any-
Board of Selectmen,
without anything
under
like
Mass
that.
General
But
Law,
then
Chapter
what
30,
we distribute at the
A,
town
Section
meeting, we'll have
21,
motions.
Item 2 and 6, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and to discuss purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate. It is, the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation procedures.
Self-help money.
I move that we go into executive session. Roll call vote.
Labrie, aye.
Martin, aye.
Mackey, aye.
Sears, aye.
We're in executive session.